Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on March the 27th, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, with the highest class of humor,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we played this week. We're going to be going over the March Gameclub, which is Torchlight 2. We're going to be discussing our next Gameclub game. Atari's empty box reveal at GDC. GDC's realistic talk about game sales on Steam. EA is hiring for an open-world Star Wars game. Microsoft is banning offensive language from Skype and Xbox. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage. How are you today?
I'm a little sore. I slept on my shoulder a little wrong, and it's been, well, turning you on, but that's hardly saying anything whenever I groan stretch.
It's just those noises you make. They just, they get me all riled up.
Like I said, hardly anything new for you.
I am doing pretty swell myself. I had quite a bit of Mexican food for dinner, so we'll see how many breaks we have to take tonight. But
now, see, I usually eat light before the podcast, and you have the toilet destroyer combo.
Not always, but I do always eat heavy before the podcast because, for me, the podcast happens after dinner.
Yeah, for me, it's lunchtime.
Yeah, and they say that dinner should be a lighter meal, but in traditional American, I don't know, Americanism, fuck medical science and research, and I'm gonna eat a big-ass dinner.
Well, to be fair, light meal for the American cuisine isn't exactly a small meal these days.
That's fair.
But I've been trying to watch what I eat a little bit more, and looking around at just nutrition labels, there's some fucked up shit, because a lot of the things that you would eat in one go, they'll split into 2 or 3 servings to drop the calorie count.
Yep. Gotta be careful about that.
Or even worse is trying to do a little bit of research, and there's a lot of bullshit out there and just woo and bunk when it comes to just nutritional info. Gotta watch out for the chemicals, the toxins. And welcome to the food portion of the podcast.
I love chemicals and toxins.
Yeah, they're delicious. Or probably my favorite one is people complaining that you shouldn't eat food that doesn't rot. Okay, so you don't want beef jerky, or what about honey? Honey doesn't rot. Ever.
Yeah, honey doesn't spoil. If you follow that logic, that's the only thing you can eat, right? Honey? Because beef jerky can go bad after a while. It lasts, it's got a long shelf life, but it does eventually go bad.
Yeah.
Honey just crystallizes, and then you can heat it up, and it'll become honey again.
Yeah, but see, you're not supposed to eat anything that doesn't rot. Which I realize is a double negative, but it's basically going against modern chemicals in the food, for lack of a better term. Modern preservatives, because that'll kill you and give you cancer, never mind the fact that everything gives you cancer. Oh.
Yes. Being alive gives you cancer. Kind of like one of the games that I played this week. Yeah? Huh?
Well, why don't you go first since you have the segue?
All right.
Because this is going to be fun.
Right. So, I played Sea of Thieves this week.
Are you sure you could say you played? Experienced?
I looked at Sea of Thieves this week. But I have to pause because Katie just texted me and says that I'm needed.
Oh, so, my.
One moment, please. Or maybe 2 moments.
Oh, that quick, huh?
That trip to go take care of my son was more exciting than all the time I put into Sea of Thieves. See, I got 2 segues in since I had to stop. So yes, Sea of Thieves came out this week, and because it is part of Xbox's new program where all of their first-party titles release onto the, what's it called, Xbox Game Pass, which is their subscription service where you get access to...
it sounds like you wanted to pass on it.
Yeah, where you get access to over 100 Xbox titles throughout all of their generations. Like, it goes all the way back to original Xbox. And I had a 2-week free trial, so I was like, why not? Why not try it? Especially after I had seen like the first early reviews saying some negative stuff about it. But all of the podcasts that I'd listened to who had played it in beta and alpha had said mostly positive things about it. So I was like, well, this is interesting. I wonder
which it is.
Yeah, which it is. And it's bad. It's real bad. Before I get into it, I will make one caveat. This game is designed to be played primarily as a multiplayer experience. And for most of my time playing it, I played single player. I put in about 5 hours total. I played 3 hours solo, about an hour in the random party queue system they have. It's not really matchmaking. It's just like a party finder. And then one of my friends from high school that I'm still friends with on Xbox Live because I've never ever cleaned out my friends list was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me or not, Jared, but I see that you're playing a game and I too have this game. Would you like to play together and catch up? And so I spent an hour playing with Ryan. And Ryan, if you're listening, fuck you.
Oh my.
For old time's sake. We're Ryan and I are good friends. Or we were good friends. Now we're reconnected acquaintances. I don't know. This is the first time I've had one of these experiences.
You're trying to hook up with them, so
yeah, fair play. But yeah, fuck you, Ryan. So with that in mind, people have been comparing No Man's Sky to Sea of Thieves, and I kind of see where they're coming from, but to be fair, the comparison's not apt, because at launch, No Man's Sky had way more things to do than Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, that's how the entire spectrum of the color palette, right?
Yeah, that's how boring and shallow Sea of Thieves is. I have a pros and cons list, or a positives and a negatives list, however you want to think about it. There's 3 items on the positive list, and there are 10 items on the negative list. We're going to start with the good stuff. We'll get that out of the way real quick, and then we'll move on to the bad stuff. So, the good things about Sea of Thieves. It's got a really interesting art style. They did go stylized for like characters and some of the stuff in the environment, but it's got this really interesting realism to it as well for a lot of the inanimate objects. It's really difficult to explain, and you would think that it would clash thematically, but I don't know how they've worked it together. But the art style is really interesting and unique, just how it blends realism and cartoonish almost caricatures of pirates and people from the 16th, 17th century, roughly in there. Mm-hmm. And it just was really neat. And I had seen a lot of the beta stuff and the E3 footage and whatnot, and that really focused a lot more on the cartoony aspects of the game, not taking any time to really go and just look at the textures. There weren't any wall lickings or anything like that. So you didn't really pick up on that realism aspect of it. But I thought it was nice, and it worked really well. That's one of those things that I think devs have been getting better at over the years, just because of console games. And this game is primarily developed for Xbox One and Xbox One X, and then they released it on PC as well through the Microsoft or the Windows Store as part of their Play Anywhere program. So that was nice to see. And as sort of an extension of that, but it was so good, I put it as a separate point. The water looks amazing. Not only in terms of its actual look, it looks like water from the Caribbean in color and in texture. I've been to the Caribbean a couple of times. But it also looks like real water in the way that it flows and the way that waves go up and down and break across for example, the bow of your ship, or beaches, or harbors and things. They nailed it. This is probably the best video game water I've ever seen, and props for that, because water is difficult to map and requires a ton of processing power to get to work right. So,
well, when they don't put any content in the game, they have extra processing power, it seems.
Indeed, but credit where credit's due. I'll give them that on water. And then when it comes to the actual sailing mechanics, this is the third positive thing, the last positive thing. The sailing mechanics are awesome. They're the appropriate mix of realistic, but also video game
logic,
arcadey. So you can do things like sail directly into the wind. If you don't give a shit about learning the actual finer points of sailing. And it lets you do that. You move slower, like you take a movement penalty for sailing directly into the wind. But, they'll let you do that. They'll let you, if you're sitting still, they'll let you slowly turn your ship around so that you don't run aground or something like that. Which is nice for, again, if you don't want to learn the finer points of sailing. But,
well, I'm sure that they teach you, right? Right? I know the answer to this, by the way.
We'll get to that. The finer points of sailing, though, for example, tacking. In case you're unaware, well, first of all, sailing, hydrodynamics and aerodynamics are very similar. And there's this process in sailing called tacking, which is a way that you can sail into the wind. You don't directly sail into it, you sail at an angle, but it utilizes the exact same properties that wings do to create lift. And essentially you turn your sail into a vertical lifting body so that you're pulling the ship along by the differences in pressure caused by the wind moving over the sail. And then you use the keel on the bottom of your ship. You angle that appropriately so that you don't get pulled sideways, you get pulled forward. And you can do that and move much faster into the wind as opposed to just, going with video game physics and sailing directly into the wind. And then obviously if you fill the wind with your sails, you get a nice little speed boost as you're going along. But the sailing is really intricate and in-depth. You do have to angle your sails manually. You have to raise and lower your sails manually. Sometimes it's better to actually have more raised sails based on weather conditions. There's storms and things like that. And if you sail into a storm with your sails fully extended, you run the risk of flipping your boat over, and then it sinks, and that's no bueno.
Yeah, that's a long swim.
Yes, it's a long sail. It's an infinite swim. But that's the sailing is pretty good. Pretty good indeed. And then it all falls apart. So you're playing Sea of Thieves. You start playing Sea of Thieves, and the three things that I mentioned above keep you somewhat to mildly interested for around an hour. And then you're like, okay, well, what is there to do in this game? And we will start from the beginning. When you launch the game, when you quote-unquote create your character, there are 0 customization options, period. There's a little randomizer you can hit that will give you 6 pirates to choose from, and you can hit the randomizer and you'll get 6 new pirates. But after I hit the randomizer about 4 or 5 times, I started to see the same pirates from before. So, no character customization, no character creation. You just pick one of the random pre-designed options, which, not the worst thing in the world. I could live with that if most of the rest of the game was better. Then you're given a choice between 2 ships. There is the Galleon, which is a larger ship that's designed to be played with 3 or 4 players, and there is the Sloop, which is a small ship designed to be played by 1 or 2 players, but really they mean 2, because playing this game solo sucks balls. Then beyond that, there is no character progression. 0 character progression at all. There's no RPG sort of leveling up. There's no skill unlocks. There's no nothing. What you start with is what you have for the entire game. And you do earn rewards for completing missions. You earn gold, which lets you buy cosmetic items, and you earn Reputation, which unlocks more difficult missions to play, which gives you more gold. But there's no progression at all. And the cosmetics are ridiculously overpriced. The cheapest cosmetics take about 10 completed missions to get, which if you were playing with 4 players, this is a little bit of an estimate, but if you're playing with 4 players and your ship wasn't constantly being sunk by other players, which it is, but in a miracle world where that doesn't happen, that would take you about 3 hours of gameplay, 2 to 3 hours of gameplay to get those low level cheap cosmetic items at like the 1,500 to 2,000 gold mark. And there are cosmetics in this game that cost like 100,000 gold.
Well, I'm sure that there's microtransactions to make up for this.
There's not yet, but there's going to be. I believe they said that they were not going to put microtransactions in the game until the 3-month mark. I don't know if anyone will be playing this game in 3 months, but I mean, the economy.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question because I've been poking around on this, especially after your initial complaints that I've heard. Primarily on Twitter, but also playing a bit together over the last couple of days.
Yep.
And there's been some people saying that, well, for one, that this is an early access game in disguise, but the other kind of defenders of this game, when they do exist, which is a little surprising, but honestly not that really, is that this is more of a pen and paper RPG in a game where you make your own game in the game. And what are your thoughts on people defending the game on it being built as a sandbox solely without much content, and you are the content?
Okay. Maybe.
But the thing is that they don't bill it like that on the marketing. They bill it as an RPG, and well, technically it's an RPG, but it doesn't have any RPG systems in it.
Right. Yes. That's what I was going to say. Technically, I could see someone being like, yeah, you're supposed to make your own fun and be a pirate and put your own stuff together. And okay, sure, that's fine, but there's no tools, there's no gameplay elements, there's no real questing or missions. I'll talk about missions in a minute, but they're not really missions. At best, they're fetch quests.
Yeah, which is a little disappointing because the big thing that they showed at E3, I believe it was, the puzzle missions where you go through and have to solve riddles and that sort of thing.
Those don't exist.
They don't exist at all?
They're not in the game at all.
Was that just cut, or was that bait and switch?
I don't know. I didn't follow development of this game enough to really know.
Yeah, to be fair, I was interested in it. It was more of a curiosity for me than anything else because this is a co-op focused game. So I didn't follow it that closely, but yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about the quests since we just brought those up. There's really only one type of quest in the game, but there's 3 different ways you go about the fetch quest. There are 3 factions in the game that each offer 3 different, and I'm making air quotes, types of quests. One of them is for some sort of like trading company, think like, the East India Corporation or something like that, where that they want you to, and this is every single one of these quests, I swear to God, I dumped through a bunch of them and then looked up online to see if you got different quests at higher levels. You get a animal cage, and there are different cages for different animals. You can get chickens, pigs, or snakes. You take the cage, you put it on your ship, you sail to any island, try and track down the chicken or pig or snake. You capture it in the trap, you put it on your ship, and you bring it back. Sometimes they ask for multiple animals, or sometimes they ask for specific colored animals.
Oh, God.
But those are the quests for those guys.
Okay, well, it looks like that the puzzle quests and the riddle quest and that sort of thing are more side quests, and they aren't directly given. They're found, and you get a riddle that you have to solve.
Okay.
So they do exist, but they're a rarity.
Okay. So the second type of quest are the treasure hunting quests, which are really the treasure digging quests. There's this other group that want you to bring treasure to them, and they will tell you, there's treasure on this island. Here's a map. The treasure is roughly in this place on the island, and it's highlighted on the map. You sail to the island where the treasure is, dig in the highlighted area until you find the treasure chest, put that on your ship, take it back, and give it to the guy. Quest complete. Then there's the third type of quest, which is there's this weird, like, cult or something, like a voodoo type cult, and they want you to hunt down and kill skeletons. And you're like, awesome, combat. But what it is you go to an island where they tell you some skeletons are, you kill the skeletons, you collect the shiny skeleton skull that is like from the leader, you bring that back and you turn it in. And those are the only three types of quests in the game until you get to the end game, which is something about going and fighting the Kraken. And I looked that up, and there's not actually a Kraken. They're just tentacles that pop out of the water, and if you swim down into the water, there's no Kraken. And you shoot the tentacles with your ship, and you kill the Kraken. And that's the end game after like 80 levels of progression.
And here I thought you would be excited about tentacles.
Nope. Not like this. So yeah, that was one of my negative points. Boring, repetitive quests.
Well, okay, another question for you. This may pop up another one of your points. We'll see. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think this is more interesting.
You're fine.
Do you think this suffers from being a YouTuber / Twitch streamer bait game where it's more focused on the personalities of the gamers, and they decide to build off that instead of putting content into the game?
That is difficult to say.
I mean, I realize this is closer to the whole idea of a pen and paper style game once again, but this just keeps seeming like, well, the term I used before for this is PewDiePie bait.
I would solidly classify that as a maybe. There's so little in this game. Like, streamers have to have something to be able to go off of, or they're just going to be sitting there talking about whatever, which I get that some people like that, and that's,
I mean, it works for us.
That's just a style. Yeah, but most streamers have something that they're doing. About the only thing that I could think that would be fun to watch is if you're watching a crew of Twitch streamers who are actively pirating other players. That's about the only time the game gets right. Yeah, that's about the only time the game gets mildly interesting, is when you're fighting pirates and you manage to not get ganked immediately. But I'll get to that. The next point that I skipped over to go talk about quests, because there was a good segue, was that there are absolutely no tutorials in this game at all for anything. There are a number of gameplay skills that just sort of transfer intuitively because it is a first-person game, so the combat plays out how you would expect it to in a first-person game, and interacting with things plays out how you would expect it to in a first-person game. But if you're someone who saw this and was like, ooh, pirates, I like pirates, and are not a big video game player, you're going to be lost. It took me like 15 minutes to figure out what I was supposed to do. At the very beginning of the game, you wake up in a tavern and you've got this like mysterious map in front of you, and you pocket it and you stand up. And that's it. There's no tooltips, there's no hints on the ground, there's no quest that pops up. You can go talk to a couple of NPCs that are in the bar, but they don't tell you anything helpful. They're just like, you can just be like, hey, how's the grog here? And they can be like, oh, it's good. Great. I'll see ya.
It's well rendered. It's the best grog outside of Final Fantasy 15 rendered in video gaming.
And then you walk outside and you spawn on random different islands. Every time you die, you spawn on a random island. So I did all of the islands that you spawn on, as far as I know, are available from the start. And there's no map. There's nothing that you can pull up and look at. The only map that you have is actually on your ship to view the entire sort of area where all of the islands are in the ocean. And then when you're given like a quest map, it's like a physical item that you pull out and you look at, sort of Minecraft style or whatever, where the map is, you actually look down and you've got your map. So you don't know where anything is on the island. You don't get any text that says, go find so-and-so to get your first quest. I just sort of started walking around and talking to everybody, thinking, surely someone will give me something. And then eventually I stumbled on one of the people that gives quests. And I got my first quest and had to figure out the entire system without any tooltips or
Well, I'm glad that they at
tutorials.
least teach you how to sail.
Yeah, I had to figure out how to sail without that either. And there was a lot of trial and error in that.
And a lot of ganking.
Yep, there was ganking. A lot of ganking. I'll talk about that in a minute too. So the sailing, using it the first time, like I said, it feels fairly realistic based on what I know about sailing. I have been on a sailing boat, but I have never sailed a boat myself, so I don't exactly know how sailing, works from an experience perspective, but it seemed fairly intuitive to me. I had to fumble around with it for a little while and figure out the intricacies and how not to run my ship aground every time I tried to go land at a port. That happened a lot, coming in way too fast. You can do this neat little trick with your anchor where you can drop the anchor and do like a drift 180 type turn, which is useful like one time, and then it takes you like 10 seconds to reel the anchor back in. So if you had multiple crew members, I guess you could use that to help you maneuver in combat.
You know what they should do? They should have monkeys. AI monkeys that take the place of your crew if you're playing single player.
That would be awesome, actually. That would make the game a little bit more bearable.
See, I should be in game design.
But so yeah, there's no tutorials for absolutely anything at all at the game. You have to figure out the entire process of how to actually start a quest, because you'd think getting the quest would let you start it. No, you have to get the quest from the person. Then you have to go to your ship. There's a table that you have to put the quest letter down on, and then you have to select the quest and click to vote to make this my active quest, and then it puts up a vote for everyone in the crew to vote on. And obviously, if you're there by yourself,
and you won with you, yourself, and I.
Yep. So then you vote on the quest, yay or nay, and then you have to go over to the map and plot your course. And then you have to go up and sail your ship, and you can't look at the map while you're sailing. You have to stop sailing and go back down into the cabin to look at the map.
It's like, God dang it, I forgot. Where am I supposed to go?
You have a compass at least next to the wheel, but otherwise, yeah, you have to constantly keep going back down to reference the map, and it doesn't tell you anything.
Well, so you just need to buy the monkey navigator. So
yeah, no, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I would have appreciated some help, but no, you have to figure out everything on your own. So then after that, you're sailing to a place, and sailing takes goddamn forever. It's all right, like I said, for the first hour or so, because it's like, wow, this is neat and nifty. And then it's just like, oh my god, this is so tedious. It's so tedious, with nothing to break the monotony except encounters with pirates, which are other players. So, Sea of Thieves is 100% PvP. There are no safe zones. There are no PvE zones. You can get ganked going to turn in your mission. Someone will be holding the treasure box, and pirates can kill the person holding the treasure box, steal your treasure, and run away. And then go turn that in for a quest themselves, or I don't know if there's some kind of like mechanic for breaking into a treasure box and taking treasure if it's someone else's.
No, they just drop it into the ocean to be massive dicks.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did. But yeah, I was sank many times by people pirating me, and
well,
I never.
You were also severely outnumbered.
Yeah, there were a couple of times when I did okay, at least on the maneuvering stage. But the thing is, since the game is designed to be multiplayer with no assists at all for single player gameplay, you would have to sail and manage the guns and manage repairs all at the same time.
So
eventually,
you need monkeys.
Yeah, eventually my tactic was just turn hard port or starboard, depending on which direction the wind was blowing and how my sails were set up, and then just go alternate between all of the deck guns. And if I had took damage, I would go down and repair it. And that usually was enough to get me through a fight for like 3 minutes instead of immediately being boarded and killed. Because if your ship sinks, all of your treasure goes down to the bottom of the ocean. So
you mean to Davy Jones' locker?
Yes, to Davy Jones' locker. So unless pirates, or unless the other players are just being massive dicks, they will try to damage your ship and then board it and steal your treasure before it sinks. So there is an option to scuttle your ship, and most of the time, if they were about to board me, I would just scuttle my ship and kill myself. You can't fire me, I quit. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there are guides to playing single player, and there are people who have said like, no, you can take down another ship on your own, and I just don't see how you can do it. One time, I was able to escape from a fight because I knew how to tack and they didn't, so I was able to sail into the wind faster than they could. But otherwise, I lost every single fight. And it's kind of funny at first, but then it gets old real fast. And I hate it, and it's terrible. People are assholes.
Well, to be fair, it is a game about pirates, so having player pirates is kind of expected, but the thing is, I imagine that there's going to be a lot more than what there usually would be, because it's really the only content in the game.
Yep. Yeah, the ship-to-ship combat is probably the most in-depth mechanic-wise, because it utilizes the sailing aspect and all of the naval combat aspects, which are the only parts of the game that are really fleshed out. When it comes to ground or hand-to-hand combat, everyone has a sword. You can get different cosmetic swords, but they all are just a short, a short sword or a cutlass. And you have like a 3-strike combo just by repeatedly tapping. For me, it was left mouse click. For a controller, I assume it would be right trigger. And it's a 3-hit combo, and then you have like a 3-second rest period. Or you can hold down the button to do like a charging thrust attack, which has like a 5-second cooldown. Then you can swap to a gun, and there are 3 different guns that all perform functionally the same. There's a blunderbuss, a flintlock pistol, and a rifle that has a scope on it, which doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't seem to have any more or less range than the pistol. So those are all one-hit kills on anything except people, actual players, and then it's like a 2-hit kill on a player. And you have 5 shots for the pistol and the rifle, and you get 1 shot with the blunderbuss before you have to actually go to a physical or like a box that's an ammo box and reload that way. Because, they're flintlock muskets. So it's not like you're carrying around magazines of ammo. But all of the weapons behave functionally the same. I mean, there's a difference between the sword and the gun, but otherwise all 3 guns behave exactly the same. Which is stupid, because there are 3 different types of guns. At the very least, the blunderbuss should be awesome. And
should be dearly a one-hit kill at point-blank range, because it's a shotgun.
Yes.
Essentially.
It's not. It behaves exactly the same as the pistol. And the rifle. Stupid. Pointless. Waste of time.
Just like the game?
Just like the game. Then I've kind of covered all the rest of my points except for this one in talking about other things, which was people are assholes and the gameplay mechanics are bare. So I have 2 left. The matchmaking is bad. It doesn't seem to differentiate between PC and console players whenever you are partying up. At least not that I could tell. I tried forming a couple of parties, but I got really annoyed because one of 2 things happens. Or one of 3 things happens.
Oh boy.
You get a kid who's on voice chat the whole time until you mute them. And then you don't know what they're saying. And you hate them. And you want to strangle them in real life.
Then you just throw them overboard.
You get someone who doesn't talk at all, but seems to know like where everything is. And is just constantly like spamming the quick chat feature like, come on, let's go get the treasure. Come on, let's go get the treasure. And you want to strangle them in real life. Or you get someone who all they want to do is to be a pirate. They don't want to do any of the quests or anything else. They just want to be a pirate. And they get mad at you if you want to do anything else. And you want to strangle them in real life for that. The most fun I had in the game was when I played... Okay, the second most fun I had in the game was when I played with my friend Ryan, and we played for about an hour. We spawned with a sloop. We hopped on, and we did one quest, and the rest of the time we spent sailing around and talking and catching up on life with each other. And that was the best part of the whole game. Was not really playing the game, just having it as a, like
chat room,
a meeting point. Yeah, a chat room.
That's
that was
kind
the
of
most
what
fun I
WoW
had in the
turned
whole
into.
game.
Whenever I was towards the end of my WoW career, I guess would be the lack of a proper term, was treating it as basically a chat room for what was left of my guild as people started dropping off and people that I absolutely hated started coming in.
Yeah, but that was the most fun I had with the whole game, was just talking to my friend. And, on the one hand, thanks Sea of Thieves for letting me catch up with an old friend. On the other hand, your game sucks and it's terrible and I'm never going to play it again. I do have one last thing that might be being fixed. It had some performance oddities. Performance issues on PC is the wrong word, because I wasn't experiencing glitches or anything. But aside from the motion blur option, nothing really seemed to affect anything. Turning any of the detail options, or there weren't very many. There were like 5 options on the PC side. But is anti-aliasing, motion blur, texture quality. Oh, and it did one of those stupid things where it used like, instead of being like low, medium, high, ultra, it was like mythic, legendary, rare. I was like, what is this bullshit?
Well, see, that they didn't put any loot in the game, so they have to use those labels somewhere.
Of course they do. But I don't remember what one of them was resolution. So resolution, anti-aliasing, post-processing effects, motion blur, and one other one. And it didn't matter what you did with any of the effects except motion blur. It didn't change the look of the game, and it didn't affect my frame rate at all, which was a fairly steady 70 FPS. So it has that going for it, I guess.
Based on everything that I've seen with how the game plays, part of me thinks that this may have been, at least at some point, at least a VR-compatible game. Especially with how they handled the quest, putting the scroll down on the table and having everybody gather around and look at it.
Yeah.
It looks so much like a VR game, only without the VR controls. Do you think this would have been a more interesting game if it was VR?
I think so, because a lot of VR games wind up light on content to really hone in on one or two aspects of the VR being like the thing. And if this was a VR game where there was no PvP element at all, you just teamed up with your buds, manned a ship, and
basically
hunted down some skeletons or found some treasure.
Tall ship combat version of Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Star Trek simulator.
That would probably be pretty great. Actually, that would probably be pretty good. Or even if it was just that without the VR, if they really focused in on the PvE portions of the game, that would have given it some more points in my eyes.
Yeah, it just seems like everything that I've looked into about this game, it looks like they changed directions at some point, and they had to drop a lot of their content because it's too light on content to justify the long development time, because this had a couple of years after it was shown, and usually games have a pretty long build-up before they're shown. So, I would say probably a 3 to 4 year development time at least. And there was a big change in just the graphical quality between the two E3s that they showed this game at. So I imagine that they had to do some sort of focus change. And in a couple of years, there's going to be some sort of story coming out about this game from behind the scenes where it's very Spore-like, where the team got divided on the direction they want to take the game, or the producer decided that they wanted to focus on one particular aspect, something along those lines. It wouldn't surprise me if we get some sort of story like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. This game is bad. It's just bad right now. I don't know what it would take to make it good. I'm not going to write it off completely, because No Man's Sky managed to come back and fix most, if not all, of its issues.
Yeah, well, it has another update being teased, so... No Man's Sky, I should say.
Update. Yeah. So, can they save it? Probably.
The
There's not
thing
really
is
anything
that
else like it, so
the thing is there enough incentive? Because it's going to be expensive to fix this, especially since there seems to be no mechanics built into the game for them to hook onto. So they're going to have to build from scratch. And honestly, based on how they patched the game, it was a complete re-fucking download of it, according to the news articles I've read.
Yep, almost 20 gigabytes on PC, which was the full download is almost 20 gigabytes.
Yeah, it tells me that either they're rushing in panic mode to try to fix basic issues before even tackling any sort of content roadmap. Which, didn't they say that there wasn't a content roadmap? They were kind of winging it?
Yeah, they said that the only thing that they really had planned, aside from bug fixes and something along the lines of ensuring that players have the best experience possible at launch, the only thing they were planning on doing was turning on microtransactions at something like the 3-month mark, and they had announced one piece of DLC where you could get a pet.
Hey, it's the monkey companions for when you're the only player left.
Yeah, except the pets don't do anything. They just follow you around, and you can launch them out of cannons for funsies.
Well, to be fair, everything else in the game seems to be cosmetic.
I wish I could launch myself out of a cannon, directly into a wall, and die.
Well, you can't with that attitude.
Yeah, I'm probably never going to play this game ever again. I have something like 10 days left to play it for free because of my trial for the Xbox.
I mean, if they add more content, I could definitely see where it could be fun. But
yeah,
maybe it's just the type of players that we are. We need the systems in the game to latch onto. We don't have big enough personalities to be able to go onto a blank slate and be absolutely insane. But then again,
that's not true, because there's lots of games we both play like that. So
I mean, hell, for a while, this shows you the kind of the culture of the Twitch streamer. It makes me think that this was designed around Twitch streaming. Never mind the fact that was it both their E3 showings that they focused pretty much on streamer personalities or streamer-like personalities.
Yeah, as part of their demo video, they did
which
that
should have
whole
been a
fake
flag,
scripted.
But
yeah.
But for quite a while on Twitch chat or for Twitch, VR chat was in the top 10 most streamed game or most watched game, which is literally just a chat room. So of people just interacting and creating crappy memes. So yeah, the blank canvas approach definitely does work.
Yeah. This game does suffer from one of the things that I said back when No Man's Sky first released. If this game was really cheap, like $10, $15, maybe even $20, or hell, if it was free, it feels like a free-to-play game. If it
don't insult Warframe like that.
If it was at that price point, I could forgive a lot of these issues because the buy-in is so low that it's got enough to offer 2 or 3 hours. If you've got a good group of friends, maybe like 4 or 5 of gameplay, and then you could check back in on it every once in a while and see what it's done. But at, full retail price of $60 plus tax, if you buy the game, it's just not worth it. There's just not enough there. You're absolutely being ripped off at that price point. If you got it through Xbox Game Pass, then it's a little distraction. But at least with Game Pass, you have access to a lot of other better games. So,
as in all of them.
Yeah, as in all of them. But yeah, if you were considering buying this, just don't. It's not worth it. So yeah, that was
what,
30 minutes?
Actually closer to 40-ish. So your final verdict is no, sir, I don't like it?
No, sir, I don't like it. Not one bit. What about you? Did you play anything worthwhile this week?
Yeah, but let's talk about some other things first.
Nice. I see what you did there.
So I didn't do the Sunday sampler this week because pretty much everything I had current was kind of shitty. So let's start off with Evil Cogs. Now, you may be looking at this and think, how could this be shitty? I mean, it looks like Limbo. Well,
that's why it's shitty. Although I don't like games like that, so...
I went into this expecting it to be a platformer. It's not. This is essentially if you combined Limbo and Flappy Birds. And no, I'm not making that up. In order to move, you tap in one of the direction keys. Well, let's put it this way. You talk about red flags during the development of Sea of Thieves. The red fucking flag that I was going to hate this game loaded up, and it says tap to unlock.
Oh, no.
Yes, this is a mobile port, and a really shitty mobile port as well, because the store is still in the game. In order to progress, you have to get a certain amount of stars, which, hey, guess what? There's 3 stars for every level. To earn a currency to unlock packs of levels, which the mobile game is a free game, and guess what? There's a microtransaction to be able to buy the currency.
Oh, no.
Yes, so you can imagine why I didn't want to cover this. Usually, even if I'm playing a shitty game, it has to be at least somewhat enjoyable enough to be able to play, enough for me to really be able to say something about it. And this was just so fucking irritating because it's Flappy Birds and a extremely claustrophobic level design where there are spikes. So you either tap very quickly at a very specific rhythm, or you die. And there's no gamepad controls whatsoever. It's literally A and D for the controls, and that's it.
That's no good.
I mean, plus side for it, it is a very pretty game, and it may get a few sales because it looks like Limbo, and it may scratch that itch for somebody that wants to play a Limbo style adventure game. But I absolutely hated this. Any thoughts? Because I'm going to go through my games fairly quickly because I didn't play these very much. One for a very good reason, one for a very shitty reason, and the other 2 because they kind of sucked.
Yeah, I don't have any questions on this. It's not the type of game that I'm into.
I gave it a shot. I gave it more than its fair shake. And the thing is that it's just the fact that they used a Flappy Bird style control method where you tap and it jumps up and then it comes back down. It controls horribly in the claustrophobic environments, the level design of Limbo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. You can feel free to move on.
Okay, and move on I shall to Synthetic. This is another game I tried out. I actually had this last week, and I was digging back in my backlog a little bit, trying to find something. I could see how people would like this, but I absolutely fucking hated it. Okay, well, let's borrow your model where there's actually something in this game that I liked. And that's the difficulty settings, where it uses a modular difficulty setting where it has, I believe, 10 different settings that you can turn on and off, and that affects your score multiplier and also your level up, because this is a roguelite twin-stick shooter. It has a level up progression where as you progress, you get experience, and depending on the amount of difficulty modifiers you have turned on, it modifies that for your level up progression. So I actually really like that, and there were some interesting things where you can turn off some of the more annoying features, like the reload mechanic. This is a twin-stick shooter, and they used a 2-button reload mechanic that is just irritating. So whenever you hit the end of a clip, this is using fairly traditional guns for the most part. Your revolvers, the shotguns, that sort of thing. you have to eject the magazine with one button, and then you have to reload, and it has a timed reload to be able to get a damage bonus.
Oh, that's the Gears of War method.
Yeah, on top of it throwing a bunch of enemies at you and you being slow as fucking shit. The Gears of War method. And it just absolutely irritated me. And speaking of throwing enemies at you, mentioned how the levels in the last game was very claustrophobic. The levels in this game is fucking microscopic. As a roguelite game, typically these games are generated in what you would call chunks. You have, instead of a fully procedurally generated level, the designers make chunks, usually a room, maybe two, and they fit together like jigsaw puzzles. And this is pretty much the bog standard of how most procedurally generated roguelites work. There's a few notable exceptions. I think Teleglitch uses fully procedural. I could be wrong on that one, but it's very rare. The map is 2 to 3 rooms with the interior of it kind of just randomly thrown together in the chunk style, and the enemies thrown in with that mix, and that's it. You could go through, if you wanted to rush through this, you could go through a level in probably a minute. And that's including the long teleport spin-up sequence at the end of the level. It's just fucking ridiculous.
That is very short.
Yeah, let's see. And, well, something else that made my patience run short was just how you move in general, because you move very slowly, which kind of fits the whole, levels being very, very small, where you kind of just mosey, and you have a teleport / dash ability that allows you to get in and out of trouble. But the thing is that that's on a fairly long cooldown, and you're usually fighting several enemies at once. Oh, and this isn't a run and gun game. As you're moving, your aim gets worse and worse. The reticule starts widening. So in order to be able to aim effectively at a longer distance, which you'll want to do because you really can't get out of trouble that easily, at least in the early game. Maybe there's something later on that I'll be able to, get to be able to do that. Or, some sort of unlock or something. You have to physically stop, let it reset for just a moment. But it's a very flow interrupting movement system where you're moving slowly. You try to pop out of cover, but you have to pop out of cover, stop, shoot, then retreat. And it's just, it's grating. And that's assuming, the default difficulty settings, which I didn't find until after playing a couple rounds, also has a gun jamming feature in it, where if your gun jams, you have to spam the reload button, which was all sorts of fun. Thankfully, that
also Gears of War mechanics.
Thankfully, that could be turned off. But yeah, this is pretty much Gears of War, the roguelite. Only shitty.
Right. I like the art style.
Yeah, the art style isn't bad. That is a plus for it. I mean, we're basically back around to Sea of Thieves. It has a nice art style.
Yeah.
And but the thing is that they show a boss that you're fighting a jet. At least I'm assuming that's a boss. And knowing how the game mechanics work and seeing all the missiles and everything, I could only imagine how ungodly frustrating that's going to be. But you could actually see the difficulty modifiers. There's the base modifier. There's manual ejection, which you can turn off, but you're only getting 30% of your experience. So there's the manual ejection, there's the jamming, there's the flinching, which if you take damage, you flinch, which also ruins your aim. Haste, which I'm not sure what that one does. Deflecting, hardcore mode, criticals, fragile, dead eye. I mean, there's a lot of room to toy around with the difficulty settings, but in order to turn off some of the more annoying features, you're going to be running the difficulty modifier down so low that it's going to take you ages to grind out. And honestly, I just didn't find it fun, even with the difficulty modifiers disabled. It does have online co-op, which is a kind of a saving grace, but there's not much of a community around this game to begin with, and I went and flipped this on someone.
I see. Well, that's good enough for me, I guess.
But then again, I'm maybe just a bit of a snob when it comes to my roguelites, because I have several hundred hours in Binding of Isaac and its sequel. But this is nowhere near as smooth as even the original Binding of Isaac, which was a Flash game that got laggy as hell. So,
sweet.
Moving along?
Sure. What else you got?
You've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Last up on the trio of shit is The Flood. I went into this game not reading the store page. I got this one as a review copy, and I saw the screenshots on Keymailer and thought, that looks pretty interesting. Some sort of adventure journey game. And then I beat it. From Unity launcher to end credits was on my second playthrough. 5 minutes and 25, 30 seconds, and that's including some time fumbling with my phone's like, wait a minute, I should record, I should time this to see how long this actually takes. This is, and I'm usually not one to get into this debate because there's a lot of leadway when it comes to what is a game. But I will say for sure, this is not a fucking game. A walking simulator is more of a game than this because that has an actual fucking experience. This has 3 scenes that you go through with the world's fucking slowest motorboat I've ever encountered that handles like a shopping cart with a wheel busted while it displays messages that looks like it's out of some teenage girl's diary that she scribbled along the margins while listening to My Chemical Romance.
Hey, now. I like My Chemical Romance.
Exactly.
I didn't keep a diary, though.
And you were a teenage girl, as far as I know.
Well, not right now, anyways.
I mean, the developer said that they worked on this game for months. I'm assuming that includes learning how to code from scratch because there is not that much here.
It's got what appears from the screenshots and another cute art style.
Yeah, it has a nice art style once again, but it. Hang on, let me look at all the screenshots because all the screenshots is all the content of this game.
It makes it. It looks like almost like it's been tilt shifted.
Like there's a definite tilt shift effect that has a very
tilt shit.
Well, I may be projecting there, but
Freudian slip.
There's a tilt shift effect that's extremely obnoxious in this game. That it's very, very strong. Let's see if I can spot it. You can see on the first screenshot, just how blurry it is.
Yeah.
Then it gets a very hard edge, and there's no options in this game whatsoever. Outside of just volume sliders, which I was a little surprised that there were volume sliders.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I wonder if it's going to cost money. Because it says available March 30th. So
yeah, if this costs money, then if this costs 1 cent, you're overpaying.
Is this the one that you said felt like a student's art project?
Yes. This feels like it should be in someone's resume. This should not be on Steam. And no, this isn't me gatekeeping saying this game is shit. This shouldn't be on Steam. Okay, maybe I am. But this literally is a 5-minute game. That
5-minute games should be on like Congregate and Newgrounds and things.
Yeah, this is someone learning how to code in Unity, or learning how to develop in Unity. But the thing is that this is, it's marking on the developer's overall thing as a free game. But he has one other that is a $7 game that's just about climbing. So
it does say it has some DLC called Support the Developer Pack, which is it's a soundtrack plus extras.
Soundtrack as in one track. The only music in this game is a looping track.
Extras, various material from early stages of development, level design sketches, and images of the scenes from Unity Editor.
Look at the original soundtrack. One.
Yeah, one flow of things.
It is literally one track that loops. But yeah, this is even worth a download as a free game. This is someone learning to code, assuming that this was their first game, which it may not be because this developer has other games. And their other game is literally dragging a ragdoll around a Unity level. I mean, look at City Climber.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to look at right now. I've got this marked as not interested, so I've seen this at some point. But yeah.
I mean, it's literally just clicking and dragging a ragdoll around.
It has 67 positive reviews, and according to the data from the Steam extended whatever, between 4,000 and 9,000 owners. I'm rounding.
Yeah, and we've successfully talked about this game longer than the actual game is, by the way.
Nice. Go us. Well, I'm prepared to move on to your final game if you are.
Yeah, it's just maybe I'm feeling a little bit more sour about this because I went into this thinking it looked somewhat interesting, but if they designed this over the course of 3 or 4 months, maybe it's just all the model work, because I don't see really anything that is pretty much static objects or, reused objects for the most part. But once again, this is just more shit on the Steam store. It's flooding the Steam store. Huh?
Hi-oh.
Oh, but yeah. Color me not impressed. As you may have noticed.
Yeah. Well, you seem more positive about this game than I did Sea of Thieves, so.
Oh, well, I have less to work with. I have a game that's less content than Sea of Thieves.
And in this case, that's a good thing, because then you're done with it sooner.
So, moving down the river, this is a game that I haven't played that much by design of the game. This is a real-time visual novel, graphic novel, whatever. Actually, I would call this just more of a straight novel based on what I've played so far, called Somewhere, The Vault Papers. This is actually from the developers of A Lost Phone.
Okay.
I'm only a little bit into it. This is your pretty standard this type of story game where it plays out in real time. So you start off getting a random text message in a random train. And that's 2 weeks in a row for the train, isn't it? But I'll start over with this so you can cut out the entire segment. Or just make me sound completely insane repeating myself. And have I mentioned repeating myself?
I think so, yes.
So, Somewhere, The Vault Papers. This is a real-time novel from the developers that created A Normal Lost Phone and its sequel. And it's, so far, somewhat interesting. You start off with getting a random text message, quote-unquote, as these games play out. And it's a choose-your-own-adventure style game. I'm only a bit of the way through it because there's points in the game where the other character, because it's a conversation between you and Kat, this reporter who is in trouble, and that's really all I know thus far. And you're going back and forth, and she says that she's in trouble, that there's people trying to break into her hotel room, and you're given options of what to tell her, and to tell her to like jump out the window or fight him or call the police, that sort of thing. And certain actions trigger a time period where, as she's carrying them out, it says Cat is busy, and it's like it's playing out in real time, and then she picks up her phone and starts sending you messages again. Pretty standard for this, but the fact that it's made by the developers of A Normal Lost Phone, which is a pretty well-respected game in this sort of niche narrative game market, got me to try it out. And it is a free game, unlike A Normal Lost Phone. It doesn't have microtransactions in it yet. It doesn't have ads in it yet. It's still considered in its early access phase, according to Google Play. But I wanted something to take the sting out after 3 rather disappointing games this week. So I'll be reporting back on this one next week as I progress through it. But any questions on this? I'm not too far in. They do say on the store page that at certain points of the game you're going to have to Google stuff or look at Street View or research things, which is interesting. I'm not sure I'm not sure if that's pretty standard for this genre or not. I haven't really played any of these. I know you played Lifeline, I believe it was.
Yeah, I was going to say this,
which is similar to this.
Yeah, I was going to say this reminds me of Lifeline, and that's pretty standard for these types of games. They, at least the ones that are more involved, and they'll ask you to do things like that during your off time.
Yeah,
or, you know,
yeah, and they did say that it takes
downtime.
several days to be able to complete the game, or to get to an ending, and the game does support a fast play that once you hit an ending, you're able to go through without the wait times.
Yeah.
Which is also pretty standard, but I wanted something different. I never really played any of these. And the fact that it's by the developers of A Normal Lost Phone intrigued me.
Yeah, I'm glad to see a couple more of these. There are only a few that are any good that I've found on the mobile market. And after I played Lifeline for the first time, I've searched for games like this because it's a really nice way to play through a story game on your phone, and I like the way how that it plays out over the course of several days. Mm-hmm. So I will be downloading this and playing it as well.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have our own little mini game club.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
indeed. Oh, excuse me, that one snuck out.
Yeah,
I'll have to edit that burp out. Very professional.
Yeah,
but
professional.
The most professional.
Hugely professional.
I need to go to the bathroom before we move on to our next session.
The toilet breaker combo platter acting up?
No, just I drank way too much tea because I talked about Sea of Thieves for 40 minutes. So we will take a quick break, and I will be right back, and then we will talk about Torchlight 2. Moving on, though, to our game club for the month of March. Rage, would you care to explain what Game Club is to anyone who may be uninitiated?
So, Game Club is where we come together and play a game, in this case, literally, to kind of rectify our diverging taste, and then we sit down and talk about it. Sometimes in great detail, sometimes not. And there will be spoilers up ahead. This is an ARPG, so there's not that much to spoil. This is going to be more mechanics-based this time around. But whenever we have story spoilers, well, there you go.
Yeah, it'll be new to me, too, because aside from the opening cutscene, I haven't paid any attention to the story at all. Not one bit.
Well, there's not a lot of story here. I'll go ahead and give a very brief synopsis. This is essentially Diablo 2's story, where one of the main characters from the previous game, as you play through the original Torchlight, you get what's called the Ember Blight on you, and you become infected. And the reason why you're dealing with the events in the original game is to cure yourself of the Ember Blight. Well, one of the playable characters, the Alchemist, didn't get cured and went a little insane. Even though that's kind of questionable because he is also trying to prevent an alternate reality from pouring into Torchlight's reality. That's where all the tentacles are coming from, by the way. This eldritch abomination, trying to stop Cthulhu.
Right, okay.
And that's why he's siphoning all the magic from the various magical guardians to try to repair the torn veil of reality. I mean, that's pretty much the story. And you're just following him and going on this adventures the entire time. So, story spoilers are done. Should we talk about the art style of the game real quick, and then we'll start diving into mechanics and what you think of an ARPG?
We can.
Because you paid attention to one cutscene. What do you think of the art style of the cutscenes and just the game in general?
Well, the cutscene, the opening cutscene, I liked. It was like a drawn. It felt like a hand drawn.
Yeah, a comic style.
Yeah, a comic style of cutscene, and I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a rarity these days, actually.
Yeah, and it was
with limited animation. It's not fully animated, but it does a good job of kind of just drawing you in, and it's a different enough style that whenever the cutscene shows up, it's eye-catching because the general style of Torchlight is a very exaggerated, large shoulders, large guns, ARPG with a very cartoony feel.
Yeah, I both like the art style and like the fact that they went for something more stylized. This game, you can tell graphically it's dated.
Mm-hmm.
It released in 2012. And that shows, but because they went for something more stylized as opposed to realistic, it seems to have held up.
Well, it's the same thing that the old Nintendo 64 games, the ones that are very stylized, have held up a lot more than the ones that tried to be realistic.
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie is held up better than Mario.
Yeah, although Mario is held up okay.
Yeah, well, Mario's technically not human. He's a hat. But
GoldenEye looks terrible.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go for launch titles, or close to launch titles, and I thought Banjo-Kazooie was first year Nintendo 64. Could be mistaken on that, but I don't remember. I know Mario was. I know Banjo-Kazooie was early enough that it got a sequel, or was close to a sequel.
No, it had a sequel on the N64.
Yeah, so
Banjo-Tooie.
Well, I can't remember if it launched before or after the GameCube released, because there's always...
No, it was on N64.
Well, I meant that it was focused on the N64. But yeah, it's a very stylized game, and that definitely shows here. And they didn't go for very high fidelity, and you could definitely see that with some of the assets, them being extremely low poly. But the game is not built around sitting around looking at the art assets. It's an action RPG, so there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of spell effects.
There's a lot of explosions and fire raining down from the heavens, because that's what I play.
Well, when you're not dead.
When I'm not dead, yeah. We ran into an issue last night where I was way too squishy.
Yeah, we played this multiplayer. Well, me exclusively, because I played this before. But you found it a lot more interesting in multiplayer and co-op.
Yeah, I enjoyed the multiplayer more than the single player. I played it single player a bit.
And it's not bad.
Maybe like 5 hours. And it's not a bad game. I might play it single player some more. Like, it would be... It runs really well on my laptop because it's not a very graphically intense game, and it's from 2012, and my laptop is from 2012.
Yeah, it's from 2012, and it has a requirement of an x86 compatible 1.4 gigahertz or faster processor.
Yeah, so it runs pretty well on my laptop.
I think it runs well on a toaster these days.
Yeah, so I'll keep it around for like trips and things like that to play as a single player game. I'm going to my parents' house this weekend for Easter. We're spending a couple of days with them and doing, I don't know, Easter stuff. That'll probably be what I play over the weekend because not a lot of games run on my laptop. But yeah, it's not a bad game single player. Once I use single player mostly to try out the other character types because typically in any sort of RPG, the first character I always play is a mage, and that's what I did in our multiplayer characters is I went with a mage that's very heavily focused on magic damage and ranged attacks with wands.
And dying.
Yeah. It's not been too big of a problem until last night, and we
had a bit of a level jump where I think, accidentally skipped an area. Because remember, we came across the portal and we didn't go into it. And we were suddenly a level or two behind. And since I played this game before, I knew how to build my character, and I built a lot heavier on the defensive side. Plus, the game has inbuilt 4 playable classes, each with flippable genders. But also, it has mod support for other classes, and actually has some rather impressive mods out there. But I played the engineer with a focus on cannoneer, which is actually the name of the subclass, and a shitload of summons. And you played the Ember Mage.
Your summons have summons.
Exactly. The summons all the way down.
And then, I play an Ember Mage, and I heavily focus on the fire spell tree. There's fire, ice, and electric. And I've dabbled in spells from both ice and electric, but I prefer the fire the best because it's the most DPS focused. And so that's what I do, is sort of a glass cannon build. And the glass really came out last night. But I have retooled my character to be more defensive. I want to talk for just a few minutes about what I really like about Torchlight 2, because I'm not a big fan of ARPGs.
Yeah, well, Torchlight 2 is the game that kind of converted me into enjoying ARPGs, because I never really played them before.
Yeah, a lot of issues I have with ARPGs. I've gotten past the camera view. I used to really hate isometric camera views, but after being pretty much an exclusive PC gamer for the last several years, I've been playing more and more games that have an isometric camera view, and that's not really a problem anymore. But when it came specifically to ARPGs, they have all felt very complicated, very finicky, and super min-maxy. And Torchlight doesn't have any of those problems. It's got 4 base classes, but any character can use any weapon, each or armor set.
For the most part, there are specific weapons, but they're a rarity.
They're like named rare weapons that are...
They're unique.
Locked.
Literally.
Yeah. But all of the normal weapons and armor can be used by any class, and there's 2 requirements for each of them, which I like. There's a level requirement, and then there's usually a stat requirement, so that if you get something that's tailored for your class, and you've been leveling up your class's most important skills, then you can get access to higher level gear sooner. But regardless, whenever you hit the level limit, you can use it. It's not complicated or finicky in terms of like character builds. Each character has 3 skill trees that you can kind of spec into, but you can also mix and match. And then the actual leveling up your stats is super easy. There's only 4 stats, and everything is really simply laid out with what does what. And in general, you pick the 1 or 2 stats that affect you the most and level those up ahead, and then the other 2 you just kind of keep pace with. Like for me, I didn't put very many points into Constitution, so I have low health, and that's really come back to bite me in the ass here lately.
Well, there's also the gem system, which you're able to add specific gems depending on what you want, because there's a lot of different gems, with each having 1 or 2 effects, either if they're on your armor / trinkets, your necklace, your rings, that sort of thing, or on your weapon. And like a weapon, one may give health steal, while whenever you put it on that same gem on your armor, it gives you just flat out health.
Yeah. Another thing I like is that the inventory system is not finicky. A lot of ARPGs that I've played, you have to manage sort of like you have to play like backpack Tetris, because items have sizes and you have to make sure that they all fit. But in this, you just have inventory space, and each item takes up 1 inventory slot, which is easy to deal with, easy to manage. You also get a pet from the start, which I love. They have their own inventory, and you can send the pet to town to just dump junk all whenever you need to.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
So-
Torchlight pioneered that mechanic, because I have seen it in other games that's popped up quite a few times. But it's the first one I encountered. In looking back, I haven't found any instances before it, but I could just be missing it. But
Yeah.
it's a nice change of the looter, where you're able to just sell off at a reduced gold, because that's the penalty, is sending it off. You lose a little bit of gold, but you usually have plenty of gold anyway.
Yeah, I've not been hurting for gold. Last night I spent down to 0 twice. From the first time I had like 30,000, and the second time I had like 40,000 gold. I mean, getting gold is super easy. It's everywhere. And you've got tons of junk items to sell as well. So, I like Torchlight 2. It's a good game, and it's a good... I wouldn't say baby's first ARPG, because there is depth to it. I can see that.
It's a
and there's a
gateway
lot of
game.
things you can... It's a gateway game. Because it's not finicky or complicated or loaded up with 10,000 separate systems. Everything flows very smoothly and easily, and everything is easy to understand.
But if you want more depth, it does offer some depth. I mean, it's not Path of the Exile, where it has 20,000 skills to be able to learn. But there's enough depth there to find little subclasses or little alternate ways to play with each of the classes. You could there's also universal skills that you could get through scrolls that each character has 4 slots for, and also your pet, which that's really the only real tip I gave you, was whenever you found a heal all scroll, I told you put it on your pet immediately.
Yeah.
And I let you kind of
pet...
learn everything else as you go. Your pet also has its own mana pool and is able to cast for scrolls that you put on it.
Yeah.
And
my pet's a cute little corgi. He's so cute.
Mine's a crab. His name is Mr. Kibbles. And he's a hell of a lot more defensive than your corgi. Because that's something else, is that there's the normal pets that's just purely cosmetic, with the exception that the flying pets are a little bit better mobility-wise, but not enough to really be able to say, oh, well, if you didn't get a falcon, for example, or the owl or whatever, you may as well reroll. And the fact that they all have their cute little backpacks as well, and the mongoose has goggles.
Yeah.
But then there's the fishing mechanic in the game, where you're able to get, well, for one loot, your some armor items, usually boots and pants, which makes me wonder about what the hell is down in that fishing hole. But you also get transformation fish, which of varying varieties and strengths. So I gave my pet pretty much immediately from one of my alternate characters from the shared stash, which is pretty standard in these games, a fish that turned him into a crab that's a lot more defensive based and made him more of a support character.
Yeah, where I have that one. I got that one last night, the permanent crab, but my pet is more offensive focused.
Yeah, the different fish are the ones that have the different abilities. So a crab is more offensive. A spider has the web ability built into it, which there's also a scroll for that, which allows for immobilization and I believe some poisoning. The mimic is pretty much a pretty all-round stat upgrade. It has better defense in the base game than the base game's pets, but it's not as strong as the crab. But it deals more damage, so it's trade-offs. But you don't have to sit there and fish. You can just dynamite the hole if you're not in town.
I dynamite the holes. And you were dynamiting a bunch of the holes last night, but you don't have to do that. I don't mind to wait. It doesn't take that long. I just don't like the fishing mechanic.
I didn't mind the fishing mechanic. But it's not, oh my god, have to do this. It's more just, well, wait for Jared. Go fish.
Yeah, well, I discovered one of the reasons you had to wait on me last night is I didn't realize you could turn off the low level loot so that
Well, that's
you
pretty
didn't
much
see it anymore.
standard in all these ARPGs. Maybe that's part of the reason why you haven't enjoyed ARPGs. Is that once you get past a certain point and you don't have to get everything for gold, you just turn off the standard, the normal quality, the white items, and they'll still be there if you accidentally click on them or see something on the ground. And I believe it's Alt that brings up the tags for everything.
Yeah, it is.
And be able to pick it up if you're hurting for gold, but just turn it off and leave consumables on, gems on, and pretty much everything that's green quality and higher.
Yeah. Well, I've never gotten that far to where that would be necessary on other ARPGs because I've never liked one before. So I play for a few hours and then I'm pretty much done. What was the other one we did for Game Club? You've already mentioned it, but
Path of Exile?
Yeah, Path of Exile. I mean, Path of Exile is the only other ARPG that I've played for any real length of time, and I forced myself to just because it was for Game Club.
I wonder if you would enjoy this more now, Path of Exile more now that you've gotten a bit more of a handle on the ARPG general mechanics, because Path of Exile is pretty much a standard ARPG, just a lot more depth.
Yeah, I would go back and check it out. I think I'd like to play through Torchlight the rest of the way before I check out another one. But I would be willing to go back and see.
Yeah, and different ARPGs really focus on different things. Torchlight, it's more of a stand and shoot style of ARPG. There are escape abilities. There's more defensive abilities, like the engineer that I use has the force field ability, which all the characters also have their unique charge ability, where as they deal damage or take damage, depending on the class, they get various bonuses. For the engineer, for example, it's essentially a combination of the rage mechanic and the combo system from World of Warcraft. As I deal damage, I start charging up a bar, and at the 20% intervals, I get essentially a combo point, a charge point. And certain ones of my abilities burn either one or all of those, depending on the different abilities, for different effects. For example, the force field that I use, it burns all the charge combo points that I have, and for each one, it gives an extra 50% to the overall force field. And that combined with another skill point that I have, or a skill ability, where I have a certain percentage on every kill to get a full charge bar. Once those start comboing together, and as I build up those two skills, it makes me a very defensive powerhouse. And that's the style of ARPG Torchlight is. There are escape mechanics, there are running mechanics, but they're more of a rarity. It's not a run and gun game like, I think Path of Exile is closer to that style, where it's a lot more kiting. And something like Path of Exile, where you are building as a glass cannon, that would work a lot better in Path of Exile than it does for Torchlight.
Yeah, well, I still do plenty of kiting. Everything attacks me.
Yeah, because you're squishy.
And I have to run away from it. I am squishy, and I have a higher, at least burst DPS than you do, because one of my abilities is that if I attack an enemy that's on fire, it does an extra damage boost, and that stacks, as far as I know, infinitely. So I have this attack that calls down sky beams of fire, and each one counts as a separate attack. And right now I have 5. You can get up to 7 or 8. So I have 5 sky beams of fire that all count as separate attacks. Plus I have a fireball spell.
Well, I think there is an upper limit
fires.
Because the Outlander has a similar thing where as it attacks, it builds up a combo meter, and the more it charges, the higher it hits, and also the faster it attacks. So it's builds up very quickly after the first percentage point or two to, I believe, 10 or 15.
Yeah. Well, there would be a maximum anyways, because I can only do so many attacks at a time, regardless of whether or not I have mana, and I run out of mana a lot. But, I mean, I can pretty quickly drain even a boss health bar. Like, I've watched it whenever all of those sky beams hit, and I'm getting multiple hits with my fireball spell, just watch that bar start draining. But I am super squishy, and the enemies that we were fighting last night had this sort of kamikaze attack that pretty much always
they
did a critical.
Yeah, whenever they come in, they swoop down on a well, to them, an enemy, and they kept surrounding you and just one-shotting you, which was funny.
Yeah,
and also there's let's talk the death mechanics, since you're well acquainted with that.
Very.
There's two options whenever you die, and they cost gold. Well, one does, where you could just go back to town. It's a freebie. Or you just resurrect at the zone line, for lack of a better term. And it doesn't replenish the health of any of the enemies in the area. So if you're not playing on Iron Man mode, you die, game over. You can eventually exhaust a boss, even with just a terrible build. But you were going to town for the freebie and then using the Waypoint Shrine, which is the fast travel system in the game, to teleport to me. And there was often times where I would be either standing tanking damage and building up my combo meter to replenish my force field. And you would come in on top of me just as the boss was attacking.
Yeah, that happened several times. And also sometimes it would happen with regular enemies too. Like I would miss one of the kamikaze bats, and so I would get killed by it, and then I would warp back in, and I would get killed by another kamikaze bat before I could even react. Or one of the larger enemies that could do
whenever
big DPS.
You warp in, there's also this slight stutter as the game catches up and it brings you in. So that may also be part of it.
Yeah, maybe, because there's a few seconds where I assume I've spawned in, but I can't do anything yet because it hasn't quite loaded on my end. Yeah, but hopefully that won't be a problem anymore. I mean, we both said that we want to play this game and finish it together, because we don't, despite the fact that we play tons of games and plenty of games together, we don't really have any games that just like you and I play that aren't a part of something else.
Yeah, which is both a problem and not, because we have very different tastes as well.
We do, but this is one that we both liked, and I want to finish it, and you said you want to finish it too, so we're going to be like best friends forever.
At least until the Patreon money runs out.
Yeah, all that sweet Patreon money. And you're going to leave me. Don't take that as an insult, people who give to us on Patreon. We appreciate the support. I'm making a joke. Please don't stop giving us money. But yeah, it's a good game. It's a good introduction to ARPGs.
Yeah, now that
it's got me interested.
Now that you've played it some more, the game, it doesn't have it in base. It has it as a mod, the Potion of Respec, which is a complete reset. Outside of that, you have the option to remove the last 3 spent skill points. If you took the Potion of Respec, how would you build differently?
Oh, I would get rid of almost everything that I put that wasn't in the fire tree. And then there was some sort of like hammer close range spell I got from the fire tree that I would get rid of those points. The passives at least in the lightning tree, are pretty good.
Yeah, each tree has. Well, I guess we should talk a little bit about that. It doesn't really. It's not really a skill tree in the old style WoW, where you unlock one thing and progresses unlocks another thing to further down. It's more of a skill list that unlocks at specific levels. So level 1, you have access to the first skill in each of the 3 trees. Level 5, 6 unlocks the second, and so on and so on. And each skill also has a certain sub-unlock, so you can't just spam points in one thing and be done with it, because some of the skills get very powerful towards the end. And each tree also has 3 passive abilities, which depending on the tree, it has different focuses, like one of mine, it has static armor increase, which I don't use because I already am doing all right. A flat fire and electric damage boost, which I've been putting points into. And then one other one, which I can't think of off the top of my head. But then there's on another tree, the passive ability that every time I kill something, I have like a 3 to 4% chance, depending on how many points I've put into it so far, to get just full charge. Which towards the end of the game at rank 10, I believe it goes to about 10%, which is just fucking massive with just how many enemies are in the game, because this is more of a swarm style where there's a lot of AoE attacks. All the melee attacks, with the exception of claw attacks, are arc attacks. All the ranged attacks have at least some sort of range of splash damage component to it. Just some are more than others. It throws a lot of small enemies at you, as well as the big bosses, and most of the big bosses have some sort of summon ability. So it's a lot about crowd control, a lot of crowd management, and a lot of learning to take your punches and dying.
Yay, dying. Yeah, I would definitely remove most of it. All of the active skills that I've tried in the other trees, I would get rid of those because I haven't liked any of them. And I would...
Well, also, you have a system built up where you compound your damage. So one skill feeds into another. Like, well, for example, my big... you've seen me just fire off a large barrage from my cannon at range. That opens up additional damage to fire, which some of my other abilities feed into. Not all of them. A fair amount of them are actually physical based. But then my summons, like, I have a heal bot that's a constant, every so often, throws out a heal that also, since I put enough points into it, gives mana as well. Another one of my bots is a summoned gun turret that follows me around and shoots things, but also when that's active, I get a flat damage increase. Another one of mine is I throw a handful of spider mines, which actually have a fair amount of life. So in between combat, I could just start building up a swarm of spiders. And more than once something would spawn, all the spiders run past me, swarm them, blow up, and it's dead. It's nothing but a red stain on the ground. And that's not even some of the fun summons yet. I have 2 more that I can think of off the top of my head that are just hilarious.
Nice.
I get a immobilization helicopter that just follows me around and starts zapping things. And then there's this giant, just golem, clockwork golem that is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, one of my skill trees has a summon, and it's an elemental summon. I can't remember which tree it is. I don't think it's the fire tree.
Well, the thing is that you could put points into it once you unlock it. You don't have to spend all the points there, which is something that I actually like. It allows a lot more freedom in your character creation.
Yeah. I like that too. Because I don't have to get locked into spending X amount of points on shit I don't want to get the one thing I do want from the other trees.
Yeah, I like this
system
system
maybe if I play this game enough.
WoW is turned into, where at particular tiers of level, you pick one of 3 abilities.
Yeah. Maybe if I like this game enough after beating it, I want to keep playing it. I might go back and try the different builds, because the 3 mage builds break down basically into massive DPS, slowing, the debuffing, attacks that debuff, and then attacks that do weird things. Like one of the passive abilities that I do have gives all of my spells a percentage chance to do random effects. So sometimes can cause acid rain or a meteor to come down, or like an additional explosion, or push back, or teleport enemies away. So that one's a fun one.
Yeah, the probably the closest the game has to a more traditional run and gun very agile fighter is the Outlander, which is more focused on ranged bows and guns and that sort of thing. And a fair amount of movement abilities.
Yeah.
And the other one is the melee class, the Berserker, which is focused on both taking and dealing damage, depending on the various abilities. And it has a very strong self-healing ability, where I just brought up a skill calculator to be able to tell you. Whenever you land a critical strike, which could be built up quite significantly with the Berserker, you draw a life essence from the carnage, healing you for 5% at the very beginning of your life, of your maximum health, which at max rank builds up to 12% at rank 15, not 10. Sorry, I forgot it's 15 ranks, not 10 ranks. I mean, that's just massive, and that's just one of the abilities.
Yeah, the other character type that I played the most is the Berserker. That's what I initially set off on single player to try. I don't like the melee combat as much.
I mean, it's not bad, but the Berserker can play as a ranged. It's just there's less options for it.
Yeah. Although that mostly comes out of my playstyle. I prefer to play ranged anyways in most game type or in most games. So,
but I will say that the game doesn't punish you for playing melee for the most part. I mean, some bosses are going to be tougher based on a melee class, especially ones that teleport or do odd things.
Yeah.
But overall, it's very doable for any class.
Yeah, the mage has some spells that are tailored to melee or close range gameplay. There are several ones that have short ranges. There's like a magical hammer spell that you swing. It's like a fire hammer that you swing around you, that can be increased all the way up to 360 degree arc. So each class, from what I've seen, the classes seem to have skills that allow you to play whichever way you'd like to, which is nice. I don't feel like you really get punished for doing anything.
Yeah, I'm just looking around the skill tree for the Ember Mage. I wanted to see what that summon was. I'm not seeing it off the top. But yeah, there's a lot of different styles of play. I mean, just the Engineer, I know of 3 different main subsets, and that's not even counting the different overall talent trees. And the one I play is like a hybrid of the two, where I'm taking a lot of summons, but I'm also dealing a lot of damage and building up charge. So there's still a lot of leadway, and we're not even playing on the hardest difficulty though.
No, we're playing on, what is it, Veteran?
Yeah, sort of the I think it's 4 or 5 difficulties. And since you didn't reach the late game, I will say what the late game is, because there's actually 2 options for it. You could just go into your traditional Game Plus, which you start at the very beginning of the game again, but levels jump up. I believe it starts at level 50, 55, with better gear drops and also a higher chance of rare loot. But they also segregate the different Game Plus modes, so a Game Plus character can't go back to normal game. And that's kind of a punishment if you run too many Game Pluses, because you're going to be cutting out more and more potential gameplay partners unless you're running with a specific group. The other mode is an endless dungeon mode, where you're able to buy these maps that have different modifiers on them, and then maybe the enemies have a lot more health, or they deal a lot more damage, or they just explode in a damaging sort of way. And you're able to tailor your adventure into doing that and build up your loot. Once you complete the story, though, there's really no new content. It just throws you remixed themes in the new Game Plus mode, or the endless map mode, which also has the different tile stats listed. And one of the major mods out there adds a lot more to the chunks because, well, like I talked about whenever I was talking about synthetic, is that the game generates the various levels in chunks and puts them together like a jigsaw puzzle. And one of the major mods is just adding more pieces to the puzzle to be able to put together new levels. I have noticed that I'm familiar with a fair amount of the maps in general, but that's just because I've played through this game 4 or 5 times. So overall, there's not that much repetition. It's just I've played enough.
Right. Anything else to go over or through?
I'm not sure. I mean, we've covered the basic combat. We've covered progression. What do you think of the fact that there's little hidden quests? Like, you kept seeing the robot parts.
Yeah, I like those. I like the secret areas, the hidden quests. Although I don't know what the robot parts do. We've collected several. I don't know.
Yeah, there's, I believe, one more.
Okay.
We're only about halfway through the game, by the way.
Okay.
There's 4 acts, but the 4th act is a very short one, so technically 3.5. But
okay.
Yeah, Torchlight is a very worthwhile ARPG. And Torchlight 2. I will say that I like Torchlight 2. Maybe I should mention the differences between the 2 games because they are quite substantial. Torchlight, the first one, it's essentially a single dungeon with a single town. And it got monotonous for me. And I nearly didn't give Torchlight 2 a chance because Torchlight, the original, put me off so much that it felt like a grind. But the fact that Torchlight 2 is a more traditional style of ARPG where it's essentially micro dungeons and an overall overworld that you're able to go through, it broke up things a lot more and it's not as repetitive. The themes change a lot quicker. As a matter of fact, well, we've gone through, 2, 3 major overarching dungeon themes already?
Yeah.
Well, we went through the forest. We went through ice. We're in the desert.
The desert.
Which has a sort of steampunk vibe to it. So, there's definitely a lot of legs to it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good game. I would recommend it, especially to someone who's like, I don't know if I'd like one of them their ARPGs. Well, I'd give it a shot.
Well, let's put it this way. I think this is going to be the biggest recommendation I could give it. On my Steam master list, ranked by hours played, Torchlight is number 11.
That's pretty good, considering you have like 2,000 games.
And let's put it this way. I have 2 MMOs on here that's above it. Only thing that's Terraria, it's beating it. Borderlands 2, which it'll surpass that as we play. Euro Truck, Star Trek Online, Gary's Mod, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Binding of Isaac, which is probably the reason why I hate Synthetic. Kerbal Space Program, Warframe, and Team Fortress 2. Those are the only games I have more hours in. Well, on Steam at least, because World of Warcraft and EverQuest would definitely beat it.
Yeah. Well, I like it and recommend it too, and I look forward to finishing it with you. And then maybe finding another one to try.
Yeah, the games that aren't quite Gameclub games, but are fun to play together.
Yes, that, but also another ARPG.
Oh no, I got you. I got you with the bug.
We'll see. We'll see. Who knows?
Well, one I could think of off the top of my head, I think you would kind of like the Adventures of Van Helsing, at least the first one, maybe the second.
I have one of them, or some of them. I reviewed those a long time ago, and I did not like them.
But things have changed.
Yeah. Let's see, which one do I have? No, don't autoplay videos. Van Helsing.
Well, I'm going to the first one, and
I don't have any of them, it says, but I've definitely played them. Maybe that was one of the games that I played on the shared account.
Yeah, I don't see having
right.
it, so. But it's The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing is sort of the same idea. That's a more simplified and streamlined ARPG. There's a bit more to it than Torchlight, and it's a little bit more traditional in its skill trees.
Okay.
As in, certain abilities eventually unlock other abilities, but also as you put points in, it unlocks other things that you could level up in that ability. So, yeah, it's a little bit more traditional in that sense, but it's Torchlight 2 is definitely the gateway. If you have someone that's interested, that might be interested in ARPGs, but are a little put off by some of the complexities, Torchlight 2, and maybe even the original Torchlight, but I would say Torchlight 2 definitely is a good gateway without being too dumbed down.
Awesome. So we both recommend. We both like.
Yeah, which I wasn't sure how you'd feel about it, because this has been kind of your choice and your baby on this, because you were wanting to try this.
Yeah, it's good to expand your horizons. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. This time I won. I found something I liked.
And sometimes you wake up in a tavern in a shitty game.
Sometimes that happens. I didn't even talk about the getting drunk mechanic in Sea of Thieves. That's amusing for 5 minutes.
Until you fall overboard.
And then it's pointless. You can fall overboard when you're drunk. Because it does this forced, stagger thing where your character moves. It does the whole, oh, I'm drunk and the screen is going wobbly.
Oh, basically how GTA 4.
Yeah, but then it also forces you to move. Like, you can't stand still. And so you can accidentally fall off of the ship.
And then you watch your ship sail away.
Drunk sailing is also impossible. Also amusing for 2 minutes. Anyways, let's move on to
our next game club.
What is going to be our next game club game.
Yeah, and you mentioned an adventure.
Indeed, we are going on an adventure. We're going around the world in 80 days.
At least in theory.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the book?
Yes, I've read the book, and I watched the really bad movie with, was it Jackie Chan and someone else?
There's a lot of versions of Around the World in 80 Days because it's in the public domain.
Right. 80 Days. It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger. The version I'm talking about has, I'm pretty sure, Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Now, see, Jackie Chan can do a good comedic movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's very hit or miss whenever he's in them.
Yeah, he's just got a cameo. It's not he's not a big character.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he is a big character. He's a big ham.
Well, he is, but let's see. Jackie Chan, Steve Coogan, Cecil DeFrance, I don't know, Robert Fife, Jim Broadbent, Ian McNeice, many other people. Yeah, 2004. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. I don't remember it being that great, only mildly funny. But anyways, I digress. 80 Days. This is going to be interesting because I have it on mobile. I've had it for a couple of years at this point. It was at one point a freebie on the Amazon app thing that they do every once in a while. So I have played it previously, but it's been a long time. So we'll be doing a little bit of a comparison because you have it on PC,
yeah.
Right? So we'll see if there's any differences between the two. But otherwise, yeah. I'm looking forward to it because I liked 80 Days because this is like a steampunk themed
choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, let's put it this way. The Steam tags: adventure, story rich, choices matter, indie, choose your own adventure, interactive fiction, strategy, replay value, multiple endings, steampunk, exploration, single player, casual, atmospheric, relaxing, great soundtrack, funny, romance, open world, short. I guess we have to put psychological horror.
Yeah, let's throw that
or anime. Too.
Yes. And so we'll be talking about that in April.
Yeah, it won't be 80 days from now, though.
No, it won't. We'll have to get around the world a lot faster than that.
Well, with modern technology,
Although, after what we discussed earlier, I can't wait for May. Fingers crossed that works out.
Yeah, I think I may have sold you on an idea faster than I ever have before.
I saw that. I was talking to Katie, so it took me a minute to respond, but I saw that, and it was like, yes! Exclamation point. Capital letters. I was very excited for that idea. So fingers crossed your computer likes it and that it doesn't get delayed or is broken or something.
Yeah, but we'll be talking about that, in how many days?
Too many. Too many. And there's a hint. We're going to be doing a game club on a new game. That's never happened before.
At least in theory.
This will be fun. Yeah, in theory. Anyways, ready to move on to our news topics, or do you need a break?
I'm good to
anything? Go. Okie dokie. On to our first news topic of the day. The Atari box was revealed at GDC. We put this on there because we speculated last week about it. And yeah, here it is.
Well, I want to read the title verbatim because of this article because I editorialized Atari's empty box at GDC.
Yep.
The Register, who was one of the people that's reported on this, or the news sites, I should say, we sent a vulture to find the relaunched Atari box, and all we got was this lousy baseball cap. Things get surreal and sweet at 7088.
Yeah. So it is just a box that doesn't work.
Yeah, it was a non-working prototype. And the PR manager, or the PR guy there, couldn't answer a fucking thing. So, yeah. He did, Mike is his name, was able to answer some questions. He said that it will run Linux. It will use a AMD chipset, although he didn't know which yet. It will do 4K video. It will be like a good laptop. And it'll cost around $250. So, ooh-yeah.
Yeah, because we said, we discussed this briefly, and we're pretty sure we said $200 is where it's like, well, it's a niche product, but it could still compete. And anything over that, it's too expensive. And $250 is, I think, too expensive for this. But yeah, other than what they said that it would do, no other questions were answered.
Yeah, they didn't they weren't even able to really say what the OS was outside. It's a Linux system. I mean, that line works in Jurassic Park, but yeah, it doesn't work here.
Yeah, I'm gonna read a brief excerpt. So the person who wrote the article said that they were asking questions, paraphrasing down to this point. They were asking questions about the controller, the classic Atari, joystick single button controller. They said, "What happens if we plug this into our laptop?" We asked Mike. "I don't know," he says. "Will it work?" "I don't know." "If we plug it into a different game machine, will it work?" "No." "So it's custom hardware and software." "I don't know about that." Mike doesn't know a lot of things about Atari VCS, standing for Atari Video Computer System, which is odd because he's the exec in charge of it. So, yeah, that's not promising.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a satire site.
Yeah. They could be saying, or they could be going for a whole, mysterious, we're not ready, so we're not going to tell you anything and be mysterious. But it feels very much like he doesn't know what's going on, which, yeah, not a good sign.
Yeah. Well, the fact that we couldn't find out which branch of the fractured Atari it is. Yeah. It's... I'm calling this right now that... I'm thinking this is vaporware. I don't think we'll actually see the actual console released.
It has been a while since I've heard the term vaporware. Yeah.
I'm old. Get off my fucking lawn.
Yeah. It might be vaporware. I don't know. I'll give it a little bit more time before I jump on that train.
Well, considering the prototype was the shell.
Yeah.
And honestly, remember how we praised how the controller looked? Look at the controller.
Yeah. I mean, it does still look like a bad Xbox controller.
A bad
knockoff.
Xbox controller with an orange knob. It's not even the red knob now.
I have to say though, I like the orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors. It's a nice burnt orange looking color. I can handle that. The design of the controller is garbage, but I like the orange thumbstick.
Yeah, that has to be unless it feels a lot better, a horrendous D-pad.
Yeah, that D-pad does look like garbage. That looks a lot like the Wii U and the Switch Pro controller, which are based heavily on the Xbox 360 controller, but a bit less curvy, more flat in places, and they don't feel quite as good in your hand as the Xbox controller does, but it's not awful.
One thing I don't get about this thing is why they're going so high-powered for an Atari box.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that they would do that, and they're saying, I'm assuming they're going to...
I think they're wanting to go for a full multimedia device.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
But they're trying to also capture the whole Nintendo Classic, SNES Classic, releasing the old games along with this, supposedly, even though they don't know jack about how they're going to handle that, or even how the licensing is going to work, because the licensing, once you get back past Nintendo, gets messy as hell, because individual games are licensed to individual people. Some of the designers were able to retain the rights to certain properties. Some were licensed out to companies for limited times. It was just absolute mess. So I have no idea how they would be able to have a really significant bundle of games anyway. And honestly, the Atari games are a little bit on the more simplistic side of things anyway. So I'm not sure if even having a dedicated console to them really makes sense. So it feels like really this is the Steambox idea rebranded and thrown an Atari label on it.
Yeah. If they did like an Atari box or something for like $50 to $100, that was just a bunch of old Atari games and they got all that stuff
it'd be able to cash on
that thing would sell like gangbusters.
Yeah, cash on the nostalgia value, but $250 at that point, just build yourself something.
Yeah, you could get a really cheap multimedia PC for that and have it for additional functionality besides whatever they were doing. Like the people who would be interested in that could do that.
Yeah, and honestly, we have no idea how they're going to handle the input-output. So, if this has additional functionality, it may require a specialized connector for a keyboard and some sort of pointing device if you want to have a proper computer.
Yeah. So I'm just doing some quick Googling for potential competition.
I expected to at least have some sort of stat on this thing, not just the exec being utterly confused and having less info than what we could put together.
Let's see. It looks like that they might be trying to go up against the NVIDIA Shield.
Yeah, but that's a completely different market.
Yeah, and the price on the Shield is, oh god, loud audio. Stop.
Loud noises.
The price on the Shield is $230.
Yeah, but
plus tax.
That's more of a streaming device from a main computer, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Streaming device and also a built-in multimedia thing. But yeah, that's like the big selling point of the Shield is you can stream from your PC to your TV using it without having to rely on like Steam's stuff or whatever. And if that's what they're trying to do, that's fine, but they should probably make that known now because as far as I'm aware, the Shield, none of those NVIDIA specific products like the Shield and things have done well at all. Mm-hmm. Because it's too expensive. And they're coming out with something that's more expensive based on what they've said than the Shield. And they don't even know, or they haven't even said that that's what it's going to be. Yeah, I don't know what market this is for.
Well,
I haven't
to be fair, I don't think
vaporware yet, but it sounds more likely.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think even the CEO knows what this is for.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he can't even tell the manufacturer of the actual hardware and who's going to be producing these damn things, I really think this is just a scam now. I mean, it was smelling fishy before with all the delays and everything, because this was supposed to release last December, wasn't it?
I thought it was just announced last year.
I thought it was supposed to be. I thought it was supposed to be a pretty quick turnaround. That the Kickstarter was basically final production costs. Well, I could be mistaken on that because Atari boxes are very common.
Yeah, so it looks like the next closest competitor that, if it doesn't do game streaming, is the Amazon Fire TV box, which comes with a game controller and has a built-in hard drive and some things like that.
Yeah, but that's basically the Ouya.
Android games. Yeah, so you can download Android games to it, and that's $100. So they overshot their market a lot.
Well, they said that this is the equivalent of a laptop and not a smartphone, so maybe they're expecting to have some sort of Linux gaming on this, which is Linux gaming that prevalent yet? I know it saw a big uptick whenever Steam was doing their Steam OS for like a week, because a lot of people were using that to try to get on the Steam boxes that really never materialized. I mean, I do think that there is a market for what in the day would have been called a set-top box, but now TVs are too thin for that. But yeah, some sort of dedicated PC Linux game console, for lack of a better term, that just sits under the TV and does things. That's in between of a full-powered gaming PC and a game console. Somewhere in between those. I do think there's a market at some point, but I really think that people or the developers of these things, they're focusing too much on trying to divert PC gamers, especially since there's things like the Steam Link, where you're not going to get the people that just want the streaming capabilities and that's it, because you're not going to be able to outbid the Steam Link. It's just way too cheap and goes even cheaper. I mean, it drops down to what, $5 now during the Steam sales?
Yeah, it gets super cheap.
So you're not going to get that market. That leaves, trying to get maybe the casual market that wants to have the more relaxed experience, but they're not aiming for that. They're going to these big conventions where all the focus is on these enthusiast level gamers. And the casual gamers will just never hear of it.
Okay, so quick Linux. I'm paraphrasing this article. While it's extremely difficult to confirm numbers based on the data collected and some rough estimates based on known amount of PCs in existence, it's estimated that anywhere between 8 and 10% of PCs run on Linux.
Well, how about we do this? Steam hardware survey, and let's see if it has Linux on here. Linux, 0.28% total.
So a teeny tiny amount of gaming.
To be fair, this isn't a scientific survey. This is thrown out occasionally, but Windows, according to this, holds a 98.31% market share, which has Windows 7 64-bit at 68.5%, Windows 10 64-bit at 25.41% of that market share. Mac gaming is at 1.33% of total.
Yep. So on the gaming side, I mean, that's always been the case that Windows or Microsoft's various OSs have always been on top. I guess technically DOS.
Well, this doesn't have DOS because...
Yeah, no, obviously.
But I think this is the best survey that we could probably have. I mean,
that would be amazing if someone had a DOS machine running Steam somehow.
Run Steam.exe.
Oh, that would be incredible.
But yeah, I mean, this has to be our best option for just what's out there for the time being, because this is the gaming market. Steam is still the biggest by far on PC.
Yeah.
Well, no, architecture, not just PC, I should say. Like, for example, RAM, it gets some interesting results. System RAM 8 gigs is the standard right now at 44.79. And then you get some weird ass numbers. Like 1.18% has 7 gigs of RAM, which I'm assuming is like shared system RAM. It may be like 8 gigs, but 1 gig is to the video memory or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or someone threw an extra gig in.
Or 9, 11. Although that's not... Well, it's not necessarily bad, but it's not good to run RAM that way. You're supposed to run it in either single or sets.
Yeah, let's put it this way. 44.79 has 8 gigs, and then 40.14 has 12 or over, because that's where it cuts off. Which it really should go up to 16, but yeah. But
because
let's put it this way: it has still a slot for less than 512 megabytes at 0%,
less than 512, but 0.01%, 512 to 999 megabytes.
Poor bastards.
My laptop has 4 gigs, although depending on how it measures it, it might count in the 3.
My notebook
because of the shared RAM.
It's being shelved right now just because of a power cord issue. It has technically 3 because it has a 4 stick, but 1 is shared to the video. So it would be in the 3.07 range. So there is the Linux market there. It's just tiny, and usually it's a subset of major releases that does it. I believe Firaxis is pretty good about doing Linux distributions. So there is Linux gaming out there, but it's a rarity. So the Atari box is, I don't know the market for it, and it seems like the CEO doesn't either.
Yeah, they don't seem to know quite what they're doing with this thing. I wish him the best, but right now it's not looking so hot for him.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to need it. Oof.
Yep. So, moving on to our next news topic, the GDC's realistic talk about game sales on Steam.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. There was a talk at GDC, I mean, it's right there, talking about how much game developers earn on average on releases on Steam.
Yes, which is not a lot. They for starters, in that respect, they said 82%
don't make
of
minimum
games,
wage.
Yeah, which in the United States is $7.25 an hour is the federal minimum wage, and then there are states that have higher minimum wages, but I assume they meant the federal minimum wage.
Talking about the average game on Steam will sell about 2,000 copies and make $12,500 in revenue in its first month, based off the February 2018 results, which saw 850 games launched, and 82% of those didn't make the minimum wage. That's just staggering.
Yeah. I mean, Steam we have discussed this a couple of times before in varying lengths and details, but Steam is just too flooded with games, a lot of them being garbage, a lot of them sort of average to maybe even slightly above average games, but really only the best of the best, or the games that get lucky enough to have someone that is incredibly influential find them, float to the top. And there are still no good curation tools. There's no good discovery tools. I mean, they have their algorithms.
Yeah, the discovery queue does work, but it's tedious. And the curators, well, the curators have to be able to find these fucking things to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, we are past the point, long past the point now, where just getting on Steam is enough of a marketing boost to be able to get word of mouth out. There are so many games out there that have less than 1,000 sales total. I mean, just within the last year. Greenlight was a flawed system and didn't work, but Steam Direct is even worse, it seems.
Yeah. The good side to Greenlight is that you had to have some sort of mechanism to get enough eyes onto it. And yes, there were games who broke the system and essentially cheated to get their games on Greenlight. But most Greenlight games, especially in the earlier days, had to find enough of a following to be put on Steam, which gave them a certain amount of publicity anyways. Whereas with Steam Direct, there's none of that. You pay the fee, you put your game up, that's it. Hope for the best.
Yeah, and there's actually a reason why marketing budgets are so huge, particularly for the AAA titles. It's to be able to drive that word of mouth. It's not cheap to do marketing. Even trying to just do YouTubers. Some of them charge just a stupid amount of money. Some of the major ones actually charge money to be able to play a person's game, which blows my mind, to be honest. I saw some numbers kicking around. Some of the major ones were wanting over $20,000 for a major release.
I mean, everybody's got to make a living, but that seems excessive to me. I could see charging a small fee to play a game, something like, I don't know, 100 or a couple of $100, because that would help mitigate your risk for the time that you would have to put into the game and then doing the video and putting the content up, and what if it flops? Like, I could see that. That makes sense to me. But yeah, 20 grand is crazy.
Yeah, well, let's just put it this way. Searching YouTuber charge is not helpful. Because I'm getting a lot of prominent YouTubers charged with felony. And I'm pretty sure this isn't all that one particular YouTuber.
I'm sure they'll get the sternest of slaps on the wrist. But yeah, I mean,
it does make sense to charge something, but there's also, it's kind of just crazy on all fronts. And the problem, part of the problem is that the indie gaming scene is so chaotic, especially since Steam threw such a monkey wrench into things, and Steam is still the prominent force. Going on to, well, there really isn't another major front right now outside of itch.io, which is has its own problems with just shovelware. Congregate is creating a storefront designed around open indie games, but unless they solve the problem, that's going to have the same issue.
I have heard that Nintendo Switch is a place where a lot of indie devs are going.
Yeah, but that's also very heavily curated. So, it's back to the old style of what Steam used to do, where you had to have a very major following to be able to even get Valve's attention to be able to be invited. There has to be some middle ground here, and I'm not sure what that is. And that's part of the problem. Part of the problem here is that there has to be some sort of happy medium between just open the floodgates and let them unwashed masses sort it out, and Gaben up on his ivory tower saying, "You may pass."
I mean, we know what the happy medium is. It's a curation team where that with Steam, continuing with Steam as the example, using Direct, you pay your fee, you submit your game, and it just goes in the queue. And then the curation team goes through and looks at it. And it doesn't have to be a super big checklist, but some basics. Isn't racist or sexist or
how about actually
homophobic, etc. It's not those things. It runs, is more than just
5 minutes.
An empty folder. And then some specific quality points. play the game for a very short amount of time, like an hour, even 30 minutes on some of this garbage, you could figure out like, okay, this is not, either it's broken or it's not something that would sell. And then, either the game goes on to Steam if it passes the test, and if it doesn't, the person who submitted it just gets a little message that maybe their money back, like the fee. It's like, hey, we didn't feel like your game was right for our platform because of these reasons. If you fix these things, you can resubmit it. And they would probably start with a fairly large curation team to deal, or they should start with a fairly large curation team to deal with the massive influx of games. But once sort of the word, or once a quality guideline has been established, I think devs that seriously want to put their games on Steam would try and meet those qualifications. And the ones who are just dumping, just shoveling shit out there to try and make a quick buck would stop. They would go somewhere else to do that.
Well, part of the problem is that they wouldn't stop because the developers that were shoveling shit out there and got caught with vote manipulation, of review manipulation, and got banned, just come back with another name because all they have to do is pay their fee once again.
No, I get that. But if they keep submitting the same game and it keeps getting rejected, then, or a very similar game and it keeps getting rejected, then either they'll go away or they'll fix their game. Like, I know that they can just resubmit under a different name or whatever, but if they keep going up against the wall and they're not meeting the quality guideline and the game keeps getting rejected, eventually they'll give up and go somewhere else. Or they'll actually try and develop their game into a real game.
And no longer fake games?
Yeah.
And that's not that's not me making fun of Trump. That's actually what Steam calls them.
Yeah. But, you have to... The middle ground is a curation system that isn't so high that you have to be a really top tier or something special game to get on, but isn't so low that all of the garbage broken games. Yeah,
but the problem is that requires human interaction, and Valve has been very big on algorithms.
Yep, I know.
And I'm
just saying that's the solution.
With the glut that's coming on, that shows no signs of slowing down, I might add. It requires such a large team because, okay, imagine you are in video game hell. You are...
Right, I'm in video game hell.
You are on this curation team. All right?
All right, I'm on the curation team.
How many games could you possibly cover a day? From install to end. Let's say you have to play at least 2 hours. The standard refund time period. You could only do 3 or 4 a day at best. You probably 1 or 2, factoring in download times.
Well, I suppose that depends. You could get more if when you went to install the game, for example, it just didn't work or was an empty folder.
Well, let's say
you could probably average.
Their algorithms are programmed to kick out anything that wouldn't run, that has no files in it whatsoever. That's empty folders. That's just
okay.
Yeah, it tries to boot the game. If it boots, it goes into the queue. All right.
You could average 3 a day then, because if you're working a regular old-fashioned 8-hour workday, then that's 6 hours of playtime for the games and
2 hours in the corner.
A little bit of time to make some notes on things, and then the download would be easy. If you're at Valve's actual headquarters.
I'm not assuming that it would be at the actual headquarters. I'm assuming that you are the trained monkey out on the internet.
Well, I mean, still, you could plan ahead of time. Sure. You could download these games ahead of time, and so that wouldn't really be a factor.
Well, let's assume Valve built it as inefficiently as possible. Yeah,
you could still do it.
It gives you a specialized Steam client that downloads the next game in your queue. You don't choose.
That's fine.
But still,
most of these games are
40 a day, so that would let's call.
You mean?
Well, no, that's what was released on Steam in the month of February, on average, 40 a day.
Okay.
So let's call it 20 people.
That's 13 people.
Well, I was adding, rounding up fairly significantly. So that's actually fairly doable, but that's also, is that 7 days a week or 5 days? I mean, the curation team could work, but the thing is that they would get such a backlash that is it worth it?
I think it's worth it. I think actually having a backlog is a good thing for that. You would start out with a larger team than you would end up with, but the initial backlog of all of the garbage just clogging up Steam, I think would be a good thing. As weird as that sounds, like, it would just slow it down. You know, people would think twice about whether or not they would, like, the actual people who cared about games would think twice about what they were going to do, and eventually you'd just wind up with all the garbage dumping on Steam, and that would all just get rejected. And eventually, like I said, those people would just give up and go somewhere else that their games weren't currently be rejected. It would really suck for 6 months to a year, but when you get as bad as Steam is, when you've got, you know, your entire house filled with bags of trash and it's leaking everywhere and it's smelly, it's going to take you a while to get that cleaned up. But then once you get it cleaned up and the system is streamlined, then as long as you're taking your trash out every day, or, you know, every day for the analogy, then that backup's not going to happen anymore. And sure, sometimes somebody will make a mess and you get an extra bag of trash here or there, but it all will average itself out.
Yeah, but if they do this curation team, it has to be very transparent on what the guidelines are, because that would mitigate some of the backlash of some of the gatekeeping outcry. Because I could just... we've seen what Valve has to deal with on the internet whenever they were more choosy. And we've seen it from other distributors recently. I mean, look at GOG with Opus Magnum. They rejected it because they thought it looked too much like a mobile game. Never mind the fact that they've sold Zachtronic games before, but that's beside the point. They saw a huge outcry because of it. So they have to be prepared whenever they reject something erroneously, and they have to be double checking. I would say instead of a 20-man team, bump it up to 50. Even though 20 would be able to comfortably maintain the income, most likely. Bump it up to 50, have it each game done twice, and then a final review by a supervisor. To be able to have some sort of report card saying, okay, the game failed because of this point, at this point, at this point. It didn't meet our community guidelines because of this, and this. And also, I think this would be a great opportunity for Valve to take a serious look at their community guidelines, particularly around nudity and sex, and how it's kind of a double standard around AAAs, but then indies and visual novels have to kind of skirt around this with third-party secondary patching or DLC from other sites. And it would be a way to really become more transparent on how they handle their games. But of course, we are still talking about a fantasy world where this team of 50 people looking at the shit coming on Steam and trying to clean it up exists.
Yeah, you would be incredibly lucky if they got a 10 to 20 person team put together to do that. You're living in the good timeline where Valve hires or somehow puts together a 50 person team.
Valve is actually producing games?
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect Valve to do anything about this, but the way to fix it is the way that it's always been to fix all of their problems. Get some humans with human eyes looking at this stuff. That's how they could fix all of their problems. But, I mean, Valve doesn't have to because they still make more money than God every day. So, you know,
yeah, it's
why
really
put
sad
any
that
effort?
God has to settle for handouts, right?
Yeah. He just gets to take whatever people give him. Whereas Valve is like, fuck you, that's my money. But yeah, are we ready to move on to our next topic?
I think so. We got kind of off track, but also not. It's a weird limbo. It was Schrodinger's top pick.
Indeed. All right, EA is hiring for an open world Star Wars game.
Speaking of people,
this is going to be.
This is more your baby.
Yeah, this is going to be a short topic. I just found it interesting. In the wake, and I mean, this is very early on. We don't know anything about what this game is going to be, other than they've said open world. But I just think it's interesting that after all of the bad shit that went down around Battlefront 2, and there were multiple occasions where that they were saying, like, people don't want single-player games anymore. We're just going to do multiplayer, games as service, and they could still do games as service with a single-player game. I'm not, like, blind to that fact. But all of a sudden, like, oh, we're going to make a single-player Star Wars game.
You know, an open-world Star Wars game, single-player, that has to be either a fucking huge game with a lot of open worlds. I mean, be able to travel between them, or some sort of bullshit way to try to limit it to a planet or two, or it's going to be incredibly shallow.
Well, I mean, there's several planets in Star Wars that you could stay on for the whole game and have very different environments. Coruscant, the massive city planet, to those who are, well, one of, but the only massive city planet we ever see in the mainline movies, has got several different levels to it. Like, there's the upper terraces where that all the rich people and the politicians are, and then there's sort of the middle class area, which is like down in the city. There's the slums, which are actually on the ground as opposed to being in the skyscrapers. Then there's the subterranean levels. There are many different environments that you could have in just being set on Coruscant. And you, depending on what timeline they choose, you could be a Jedi who's doing something, or a bounty hunter, or a mercenary, or hell, even like a cop. You could be, a security guard or a cop, and do a lot of things with that. So there's lots of room to play with it without them having to go planet hopping.
That Troops parody of Cops that I showed you ages ago.
That would be amazing. Yes. But yeah, I mean, you could do it set on a planet. You could go multiple planets. If they went with the BioWare style, like if they did basically Star Wars Mass Effect, you could do anything with that. I guess it mostly depends on what their definition of open world game turns out to be. Which path do they take it on?
Yeah, to be fair, this is assuming this materializes, because this is literally just a job posting, isn't it? We're looking at probably 2020 at the very earliest, before any real news coming out about this.
Yeah. And it depends on whether or not they're picking up an old project, because there were several besides just Star Wars 1313, there were several Star Wars projects that were canned in the last couple of years on the run up to Battlefront 2. So depending on whether or not they pick up an old project or are starting from scratch would change that timeline. But yeah, it's still going to be a while before we found out anything.
Yeah, I'm probably being a little generous on 2020. But that's assuming, a new project and reworking it.
Yeah, I would say by 2020 we would get some kind of like tease at E3. Maybe like a Star Wars teaser trailer that doesn't really show anything. That's probably what we'd get at 2020.
Unless this is like a mobile game.
Yeah.
Did I just break your heart on saying a mobile game, open world Star Wars?
No, not necessarily. There's one older Star Wars mobile game that is an RPG that is pretty decent. So they could do a good job with it. I don't believe that EA would if they did, but they could. And I'm not quite so cynical yet, or not quite
give
so
me time.
Glass half empty.
Give me time, I'll work you over.
Star Wars is one of the only things that I ever really have hope for. I'm always hopeful that another Star Wars thing is going to be good. And so far, they haven't broke my spirit yet.
Give EA some time. Or some money for loot boxes. One of the two.
But, yeah, I was pretty excited to see that. Because I would love a Star Wars Mass Effect, or even like a Star Wars Dragon Age type game, or Star Wars Assassin's Creed. Star Wars is a theme that I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, we've had multiple talks about sci-fi stuff on the show, and I've talked about books and extended universe things and etc.
Yeah, Star Wars is almost a genre and not a theme. There's just so many things that you could do with it.
Yeah, so I'm down for anything Star Wars as long as it's good. I mean, obviously, I didn't buy Battlefront 2 because I let games come out and see what they're going to be like before I buy them.
Obviously. I mean, you're abiding by the commandments. Otherwise, you get a spanking.
That's right. Thou shalt not pre-order. And I'm not, super big into spankings. Definitely not like Donald Trump. Hey-o. Watch the 60 Minutes interview, y'all, if you haven't.
I haven't because it's every time I see a link for it, it's been within 12 hours of the last time I've ate.
Yeah. You can watch the whole thing on CBS.com over on their 60 Minutes portal page thing. It's real fascinating.
Maybe that's what
also
Muir needs to do to be able to get him in line. Just spank him a few times.
That meme has been going around on Reddit.
I'm sure it has.
And on all the late night talk shows. Colbert made that exact joke.
I hadn't seen Colbert yet.
Yep, he's like, all right, Mr. Trump, now we're going to talk to you about the Russian collusion. And he's rolling a magazine. Fake rolling a magazine. Yeah.
Well, remember, it has to have his picture on it, otherwise it doesn't count.
Well, there's plenty of things with his picture on it. So
yeah, plenty of toilet paper these days.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really all I had to say about it. I just found it fascinating that they had backpedaled from so many single player or RPG type experiences, wanting to focus on just this multiplayer stuff, and then Battlefront 2 fell apart, and now they're like, okay, maybe we should
especially
put
with
together
the House of Mouse breathing down their neck, because you have to imagine that they are close to losing their exclusivity rights.
Yeah. I suspect that they had a very long conversation about that.
A very awkward conversation, even though I know that this entire loot box thing wasn't a surprise to Disney. That Disney is very hands-on with Star Wars.
Yes, they are.
There is no way that this loot box was a complete surprise. Maybe the outcry because Disney... Well, let's put it this way. Disney shut down LucasArts. I think that's all you need to say about how they handle video games and how they understand video game culture. They shut down one of the most well-known point-and-click adventure companies. They shut down the key Star Wars front when they got it in video games.
Yeah, but as soon as they got it, they declared all of the old stuff non-canon. It doesn't count anymore, except for a few specific items, because they wanted to wash their hands of that and do their own thing.
So Star Wars holiday special canon, or?
Yes, the holiday special, I think, is still canon.
Of all the things they kept that?
I think. Let's do some Googling. I know that they kept all of the movies.
Because, I was expecting that not to be canon. And then, wasn't there some sort of cartoon fairly recently that was focusing on the droids? Or am I thinking of something else?
There was a cartoon, but I think that came out in the 80s. It focused on C-3PO and R2-D2.
I thought there was talk of reviving that at one point, not too long ago.
There may have been talk of reviving it, but at least at this point, it's not a thing. So I don't know.
Hey! I gotta give R2-D2 and C-3PO credit. They are Hollywood's most lasting gay couple. Or just very British. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah, the holiday special is still canon. It was never explicitly said that the holiday special was stripped from canon and become Legends when Disney did that to almost everything from the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Most people assumed that the holiday special was part of that and was no longer canon, but in 2015, it was stated that the holiday special is still canon.
Wait, that means B. Arthur is in the Star Wars universe.
So you've got the holiday special, all of the movies, the Clone Wars TV show, the Rebels TV show, and I think that's it. I think everything else is Legends. A lot of the stuff from Legends, though, has come back in new canon books and other materials.
So they're just basically bringing in the old content once again. How very EA of them.
Yeah. Well, Disney is not necessarily known for being consumer friendly either. So, you know.
Just wait till they start selling expansion packs for expansion packs.
Oh, God.
Oh.
We didn't put that on the list this week. But yeah, EA did that. They sold an expansion pack for one of their expansion packs.
Well, they sold a DLC for one of their expansion packs. Well, to play devil's advocate, you didn't have to have the expansion pack to be able to use the DLC. Only you didn't get all of what was in the DLC if you didn't have the expansion pack. Which most of it was revolving around the pets, which EA also has this fucking annoying thing with The Sims where every time they update the full version to the next iteration of the series, they drop pretty much all the expansion packs and all the content in them, and then there's re-release them as new expansion packs.
And also some of the core gameplay mechanics as well.
Well, I was including that as expansion packs because typically some of the major ones add a core gameplay like weather, for example, which hasn't gotten back into The Sims 4 yet now that I think about it. I don't think.
I want to go play The Sims 3 again.
Yeah. Well, The Sims 3 doesn't even have an Ultimate Edition. Sims 2 does.
Yeah, no, The Sims 3 you still have to buy everything. They sell a couple of packs
which is fucking expensive.
Yeah, they sell a couple of versions that have packs attached, but you can't get all of them
even
from any single purchase.
Even when it goes on sale, it's still like $150 for the full experience. In the Sims 3, its engine wasn't really built around having that much glut on it. So so you start hitting some severe performance issues even on modern hardware because the program just can't handle everything. And the way that the Sims 3 is built, they never really unload all the other stuff. So all the other Sims are still running around woohooing wherever.
Yeah, you can still out horsepower it though, for the most part. I mean, once you glom on too many things, it freaks out. I've got enough that I kind of have to pick and choose my favorites to run, but all that background stuff, I mean, with an 8-core processor, I usually don't see any problems. On my laptop, I do. On my laptop, it dies very quickly after about 15 or 20 hours.
I only have the Ultimate Edition of Sims 2. I don't technically own the Sims 3. Yarg. Not that you can blame me for the Sims 3, right?
Yeah, I did have a pirated version of The Sims 3, which I had purchased a long time ago, and then they changed a bunch of stuff, and I couldn't, reactivate my copy. So I got a pirated version, but then I wound up just buying it again, because it was easier to buy it on Steam.
Well, I don't care that much about The Sims 3. I played it a little bit, just to get a feel for what it is. And I like building houses and trapping people on walls. Like you do.
Yeah. According to this, I've only played The Sims for 9 hours on Steam. That can't be right. I've definitely played it longer than that. I'll definitely be playing it soon, though, because talking about this makes me want to go play it. I'll start a new Sim, and he will be a loner who writes books and plays on the internet all day, every day.
And tries to creep out people at the park to get woohoos.
The Sims is really fun if you play as just one person. It's pretty fun if you play as a couple. But as soon as you start having kids, just like in real life, it gets awful.
Poor King.
It becomes tedious and time-consuming, and you can't just leave your kid alone because they'll die.
Yeah, because the AI isn't smart enough to be able to handle it.
Yeah. So two's enough. I like to play as a single parent too, because you can start with a teenager or I think you can start with a elementary school kid and a parent, and that's a fun way to play.
I always like doing the homeless challenge. sell everything and then just bum because it's hilarious.
I've never. I tried doing that once. I froze to death.
Uh,
I accidentally exhausted my character, and so they just like passed out on the ground. And it was I was playing with the seasons pack, and it was wintertime, and they froze to death.
I don't think last time I tried it, I had the seasons pack, but I did have a tent like on this. I used all the money to buy the smallest lot and build like a forest with a tent. So technically it wasn't homeless, but you really can't do that in The Sims anyway. It makes me wonder why I realize probably why, but why we haven't really seen a lot of games try to encroach on The Sims. I mean, I realize that it's a lot of animations, it's a lot of character work, it's a lot of systems behind the scenes, and that's probably part of the reason why they wipe the slate clean every time, because there's a lot of spaghetti code. But at the same time, we don't really have anything else in this genre.
Well, The Sims is also a fairly niche
true.
genre that it's filling. I don't know if there's room for many more games. Maybe if The Sims 5 is terrible.
It will have a Battle Royale mode.
Oh my god. Did you see what was the multiplayer bot building game that we played?
It has a Battle Royale mode.
Did you see
Royale. It got better. It got better. Okay. They launched and we are completely off topic, but what the hell? RoboCraft Royale launched at a $15 price tag. Less than 24 hours later, they reverted and went free to play because nobody bought it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They when I looked yesterday, because I had to restart Steam, and I got the Steam pop up saying, "Okay, this is all the stuff's going on in the store." I saw it. It's like, that released? That's its own game? Because I kept seeing it pop up on Keymailer, and I thought it was like a beta code for the mode in game or something, So
yeah,
went to it, and since I have Steam Enhanced installed, I saw the player counts, and it was like 7.
That's no bueno, because they're doing the 100 vehicle thing. How many people are playing it right now?
It's gotten better since they went free to play, but it's still not great last time I checked.
All right, here we go. RoboCraft Royale. 223 playing right now. Today's peak, 431. All-time peak, 431. Oh, man.
Yeah, just look at their recent updates. Now we're free to play. March 26th, we've come live and have a lot more to come. March 27th, we're down free to play.
I'm going to try it out this week because why the hell not? But yeah, this looks terrible.
Yeah, and supposedly it's a lot of player-made bots, and you're going in and basically randomizing what you're getting. So, yeah. And also, supposedly, it runs like absolute horse shit.
Oh, it's a shark. That's kind of neat, I guess. The biggest selling point of RoboCraft, though, was building your own bots.
Yeah, until you came up against people running the beta bots. Not really exploiting in the traditional sense of the word, but exploiting the way that the game handles its damage model. So, whenever you shoot them, it splits off the damage in a particular way, so they're a hell of a lot more tanky than what they really should have been.
Yeah. Well, that's like a centipede. That's neat looking, too.
But the fact that, it's randomized, and, you could get a bot that would just completely screw you. So, you get a airplane. Well, you're no longer in cover.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll check that out this week.
Yeah, well,
who knows?
I really have little interest in trying it.
Why the hell not? Gives me something fun to talk about.
Well, I thought you were going to try RoboCraft Royale.
I am. Moving on to our last news topic of the night, of the day, of the show.
Of whenever.
Microsoft banning offensive language from Skype and Xbox.
Well, fuck. And call drops.
I have seen massive blow-ups on the Xbox subreddit
I
about
didn't even go
this.
to the subreddit. I didn't even think of that. Oh, I need to go do that.
I don't know if it's passed already. When was this announced? Because I saw some stuff about it.
Was announced a
couple days ago,
a
maybe
day or two ago. But yeah, according to this, now that there's people saying that they're not doing it. So, we'll talk about this anyway. What the hell? We'll do it live.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at the. There's no policy change for offensive language on the subreddit. So a couple of days ago, though, Microsoft announced, or there was was it a big announcement, or was it a small thing? I don't remember.
Supposedly it's just an update to their terms of service from everything that I've been able to glean.
Right, and they were going to be saying that they were going to be banning people from Xbox Live services, Skype, and other things like that for using offensive language.
Clamp down offensive language across Xbox Live, Skype, Office, and everything. Office with their document sharing. It was in the code of conduct that they updated.
Right. And that if you got banned, you wouldn't be refunded for anything, regardless of whatever platform you had spent money on, you wouldn't be refunded for it. And everyone on at least the Xbox subreddit went apeshit for like a day because they were like, "Oh my god, what does this mean? Are they spying on me? Are they going to ban me for swearing?" That's the thing,
is that everything I've seen, people not be able to figure out what they mean by offensive language. So, are they talking, just English racist slurs? Are they talking just me saying fuck? Okay, no, we're still good. Unless you are being quiet and being funny.
Yeah, I couldn't hold it in. I was gonna go for a little longer, but I couldn't hold the silence in anymore. I was just giggling.
But yeah, this is just a complete lack of transparency on what they mean. So people are going absolutely batshit, and now there's conflicting things coming out, and it's just a complete clusterfuck.
Yep.
And this has been kind of a trend going around. I mean, Blizzard has been doing essentially the same thing, or talking about doing the same thing, trying to clean up their act. Going after racist, anti-gay, and just they're trying to police human nature, and I realize what they're trying to do. They're trying to clean their image, but at the same time, they're just drawing more attention to it. Maybe it's just me not playing these games and having a little bit of a thicker skin, or just hitting the mute, because that's the other thing.
Yeah, I'm okay with certain things being bannable offenses. And ultimately, it's up to the platform holder and operator to determine what they want to do. But yeah, there's certain things that just mute them or leave the chat. Or
honestly,
whatever.
Big thing, not even racist, homophobic, or whatever. What I would go after is unsportsmanlike conduct, as in going in and intentionally killing your teammates if there's friendly fire, making it so that the gameplay is a less enjoyable experience, which may fall under the overarching umbrella of this, but not the actual targeted thing.
Xbox used to have a really good system, or Xbox Live, I suppose, a really good system for dealing with those sorts of players. They had multiple ways to report players. There was a rating system that each person had that was just a simple 5-star system, but the higher you were rated, the better person you were to play with, and you could automatically avoid games with people who had, like, these was all things that you could set up. You could avoid people below a certain star rating because they were most likely to be either, just generally shitty people, or people who did things
or
like
squeakers,
that, constantly team killing and things like that. Yeah.
Wait,
Xbox used to have a really good system for that.
Term these days?
So there was this girl
oh no
that I went to high school with, She's a really sweet girl. I was acquaintances with her, but one of my friends had a crush on her.
Oh no.
And every time she laughed, she squeaked. I don't think that she did it on purpose. Like, it didn't seem, like how sometimes some people will snort when they laugh too hard. It was like that. Sometimes when she laughed too hard, she would squeak, like this little hiccupy, like, but like it was a higher pitched because she was a girl. I don't know if you heard that or not. And he used to call her squeakers.
Oh.
And he asked her out one time, and she said no, which is sad because my friend was really attractive. I mean, he wasn't like, he was nerdy, but he was like 6 foot something, like 6'2".
Oh, so he's
6'3".
the Hollywood version of nerdy.
Yeah, he was, and he didn't work out or anything. Like, I used to go hang out with him all the time. He would smoke pot and eat junk food, and we would play video games together.
So in other words, we hate him for his genetics.
We hate him for his genetics.
Wait.
But she turned him down because he was a nerdy kid.
Because we hate somebody for their genetics?
Is it offensive? Probably. So yeah, probably. But no, that reminded me of Squeakers. And she.
Sorry, go ahead.
She was the receptionist at where I used to go to the dentist before we moved, and I ran in I didn't know, I'd been going to the dentist there for years, and she got a job like the year that we moved, or the year before we moved. And when we walked in, I went, "Squeakers?" And she was like, "No one has called me that in like almost 10 years, Jared.
And now I must kill you."
I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I just remember you as Squeakers." And she was like, "That's okay."
And then she killed you. And then you respond.
She was very attractive too. She was like, but yeah, she was a preppy kid, and he was like a nerd, but he had the good genetics.
Well, obviously not enough genes.
I ran into Ben. His name was Ben. I ran into Ben later, like 2 years ago, and life has not treated him kindly. Either his good genes have failed him, or he just finally overcame them with too many drugs and too much alcohol and junk food.
Damn. Maybe Squeakers made the right choice after all.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not gonna get into the whole history of my friend. It's
rather tragic.
Everybody's got someone in their life that they know that happened to. So, yeah. Speaking of being off topic,
hey, freaking show it our content.
Yeah, because we're definitely gonna be over the time limit this week.
We just kicked over 3 hours. Well, getting back on topic, I didn't put it on the docket because I didn't think we would have much to talk about for it, but what the hell at this point? We've been talkative this week. Blizzard is actually kind of combating this sort of toxic behavior as well by being able to flag people to be not teammates with. Did you see that going around?
No.
Okay,
maybe?
Well, it's coming up and coming patch for Overwatch. I understand the concept, but it seems completely ineffective for 2 reasons. One, it's a 7-day time. So, let's say you really pissed me off with your story of Squeakers, okay?
Okay.
And I mark you as, I don't want to be teammates with you for a while. It's a 7-day lockout, all right?
Okay.
Let's say I just found Squeakers as a very offensive derogatory term or something. Yeah, maybe I identify as a dog toy. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I only have 2 slots that I could use this on with the 7-day cooldown. If I mark a third person, then the first person I marked is no longer active. It just seems completely ineffective.
Oh, that's stupid. What's
the point? It's a Band-Aid fix for trying to do something, I guess. I understand why they don't want it to be unlimited, because then it becomes not, this person annoyed me, this person just didn't perform up to my glorious standard. They didn't pop Uber, whatever the Overwatch version of it is, quickly enough. Or, that they were crappy, whatever. So I don't want to be teammates with them. And, blanket too many of those, and you start having matchmaking issues. But at the same time, 2 seems a little on the low side, especially if you're trying to combat toxic behavior in an environment that breeds toxic behavior, a very fast-paced, a sort of team game, but it focuses more on individual play. Overwatch is a very weird game when it comes to that, where it's not really a team game. It's more just it's team deathmatch, where individual players have such a high stake in things that it's very easy to get toxic behavior. And the same thing for the Dota the MOBA community with Dota, Heroes of the Storm, Heroes of New Earth, which I'm sure CEO just got very excited that I remember them, in League of Legends, where it's the same sort of idea where it breeds toxic behavior. 2 slots there would be completely ineffective. And those are, you see a lot less individual players because of the team of the just the general match times. So it just it's the same sort of idea that there's trying to crack down on toxic behavior in online gaming, but I really think that this is a lot of effort being put into something that just can't be controlled. I'll tell you what would control it, though. Dedicated servers.
Okay.
Having individual communities.
Yes, but dedicated servers cost more money.
And also, well, I'm talking about the ability for fans to make dedicated servers. I remember back when I played Team Fortress 2, there were certain servers you'd go onto that they would have essentially house rules. So, they would have, if there's more than 2 spies, you couldn't even be a spy on your team. They would have modified respawn rates. But matchmaking has completely killed off the community-made dedicated server. So that was the complete, that was how you would handle it back in the day, is that a well-moderated, community-driven server, someone gets on as a complete asshole, the mod will say, well, you're not on our server anymore. Or you cuss on the Christian TF2 server, which actually happened to me. So, they are out there. That is the idea that would curb this. But because the matchmaking has to be this centralized list now, you're running into all sorts of issues that wouldn't happen back in the day. Or maybe I'm just being an old fogey, because I remember what a server list looks like.
Yeah, I never played very much on dedicated servers. Matchmaking was a very prevalent part of gaming by the time I swapped over to mostly or heavily PC gaming. The PC gaming that I did before matchmaking was a thing was mostly single player stuff or like real-time strategy.
Well, that's part of the reason why I have so many hours in Team Fortress 2 was I had a list of probably about a dozen different dedicated servers that were active at different points of the day, had different map rotations. So let's say I wanted to pay some payload. Well, I know this set of servers typically runs payload maps and have good communities around them. The set has some payload maps, and it's more general. Also, communities that I like. And that's just something I kind of miss these days. And Blizzard is trying to Blizzard, Microsoft is trying to deal on a massive scale what server managers, server mods used to deal with back in the day when, they would have the full server and, someone just setting, not even idle, just in the spectator slot, keeping an eye on things on a well-moderated server.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why some of this, in theory, it's not a bad idea, but it just seems odd because this was dealt with back in the day.
Back in my day. I was trying to decide which sort of sarcastic joke to go with there.
We had to download, and it was uphill both ways. Download on a 56K modem. And you better hope Mom doesn't pick up on the phone.
Yeah, I was a fancy kid. I had my own phone line in my room back in the dial-up days.
A la-di-da.
I asked for that for Christmas one year, and my parents couldn't understand why I wanted my own phone line in my room. Like, they were aware of the internet, but they didn't really understand everything you could do with the internet.
Porn.
And I was like, I want my own phone line. Well, yeah, among other things, porn, but I had my own phone line in my room. And the jack is still in there. Like, my room, my old room.
Oh, I'm sure there was some jacking in there.
Has been turned into a guest room, but you can go move the bed and see the old phone line jack. I mean, it doesn't work. My parents haven't had a landline phone for, oh God, a decade. But yep, I used to have my own phone line. And then when we got high-speed internet finally, I had a wall jack put in my room too. For that. An Ethernet line.
Shall we move along to the community corner?
Yeah, we can. I've really been talking about things from my past this week. Nothing too, like, saucy. Maybe the squeaker story. Not really, though.
Yeah, you're getting nostalgic. You're getting old.
No, I'm not going to tell any sexy stories today. We'll save those for next time when we need to pad out some time. I'll tell sexy stories.
Oh, so ones that don't involve you. Got it. So, Community Corner. We only had one tweet this week. And I accidentally closed my show notes at some point. It was from Kyle saying, for the record, I don't think I'm stupid for not figuring out for figuring shit out in the surge. Just it was a bit on the audio letter.
I gotcha.
Well, besides we know
it's
your subconscious that's thinking you're stupid, not you, Kyle.
Well, regardless, Kyle, I don't think you're stupid. I think you're very intelligent.
What?
I'm looking forward to your wedding later this year.
We should just be a bit concerned about him having a subconscious that's arguing with them.
Not really much of a subconscious, so we can all hear it.
Or can we? Or are we all in Kyle's delusion? Do we even exist?
Oh God, what if Kyle's the only real one? What if we're all figments of his imagination? That's some deep, philosophical, scary shit right there.
No, I think the scary shit is when that Mexican platter kicks in.
Oh, yeah. It'll be all right. Keep calm and carry on.
But
if that's all the community corner we had this week.
If you wish to help pad out the community corner and not the rest of the show, you could do so by sending us an email, vglpodcast@gmail.com, or tweet us, VGLpodcast, on the Twitter.
Yeah, I would just fill up community corner with sexy stories as a threat, but some of you would like that. Kyle. Chemist. I know you two would like that for a fact. We told sexy stories for like an hour one time. Who knows? Some other listeners might like to hear sexy stories.
I'll look at it this way. You could narrate him for Franken content. I just gave you a hell of an idea, didn't I?
Narrate sexy stories for YouTube content.
Well, look at it this way.
I'm already demonetized.
I was about to say, you don't have to worry about being demonetized.
Yeah. Alrighty. Sorry, I got all distracted. Did you say the email address and everything before I just... Okay.
Yeah,
then let's head on over to Discovery
VGLpodcast@gmail.com and VGLpodcast on Twitter.
There you go. Now let's doobly-doo with the Discovery
and I got one right away.
I haven't even pulled mine up yet. I don't even have Steam open anymore. I must have closed that tab.
I got PixArk. This is Ark Survival Evolved with voxel graphics. In early access. I mean, this is literally a ripoff of Ark Survival Evolved. And it's high profile enough that it actually got tweeted out by the official Steam Twitter account. And it has over 4,000 players right now, almost 5,000. So it's essentially Minecraft and Ark Survival Evolved. Must play better though. But I guess this has got enough of the rather nomadic survival sandbox crowd that it has gotten at least a good start. And this isn't
I like the look of it.
It definitely doesn't look ugly. A lot of people saw complaining on the Twitter were complaining about it being Minecraft Arc, but this is more high fidelity. This is more voxel graphics, or I should say smaller voxels, because Minecraft is still voxels, it's just bigger ones. I do like the trees, though. They're low poly. You see them on the screenshot there, if you're looking?
Yeah.
The low poly trees, and it's not all direct voxel graphics. There's low poly 3D models for the environment as well. It actually looks decent, and this isn't their first open world survival game. They have one other that's seeing it's in early access still, so they may be jumping ship to another early access open world survival, which is a little concerning.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
But it says, I guess we'll have to see how this goes, but it's interesting. But this kind of encapsulates the whole idea of kind of the sort of subculture of ripoffs on Steam going around now. We had a thing on the docket ages ago about PlayerUnknown bitching and moaning about Epic. Whenever I first saw it, I thought he was complaining about all the ripoffs of PlayerUnknown's Blank or something similar to PlayerUnknown. And this is sort of the same idea, only this is a hell of a lot higher quality. This isn't just an asset flip, or at least it looks like it's better quality.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'll keep an eye on it. I put it on my wish list. I'm always up for looking for some sort of crafting game. Okay, I got one PC building simulator.
Actually, that's somewhat interesting because supposedly it's an indirect announcement of some computer hardware. There's some stuff in it that isn't released yet.
Interesting. I just kind of think it's weird. I mean, there's simulator games for all kinds of stuff that's kind of weird, so this isn't like too far-fetched. But I just saw that and I was like, huh, that's interesting. It's only $18. It's on sale right now for a launch sale. Normally $20. So who knows? It just kind of caught my eye. And I do enjoy building PCs in the real world, so.
Well, it's slightly less expensive than Lego.
Yeah. Sort of a way to live vicariously. In a little bit better way than just putting together a list on PC Part Picker.
So I got another one. My second on the discovery queue, so I'm 2 for 2 right now.
Yeah, I'm actually in my second discovery queue.
TT Isle of Man, a road bike racing game. It has some very mixed reviews right now, though, so that's a little concerning, but it also doesn't have many reviews. So it's it only has 37 reviews total and released, now technically yesterday. But there's not many motorcycle racing games out there. There's a few, but they're usually focused on dirt bikes. So if you're into motorcycle racing, then there you go. Graphically, it doesn't look too bad, but then again, it's a little hard to tell based on. Hang on there. It's a little hard to tell just graphical fidelity from stills, because racing is always about the fluidity. No?
Yeah. So I got another one. Ash of God's Redemption. This is looks like a turn-based RPG. It says it combines CCG elements and tactical combat. It looks heavily inspired by the Vikings series of games. And that's kind of why it caught my eye. I checked to see if it was the same developer. It's not. But it looks interesting. I'm all about finding fun turn-based RPG games, strategy games, and stuff like that. So
yeah, I actually saw this pop up a little bit ago. It looks very Banner Saga-ish.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Banner Saga. Although it's about Vikings, so I was kind of, sort of in there.
I like the trailer, the cartoon, the animation.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm not watching with the sound. So, got a deck building game. I think, through the ages, based on the legendary board game classic from award-winning designer. Foreign name here. I don't want to butcher the name, but yep. Looks like
Shvatil? Vlada Shvatil?
Can you blame me for
saying
foreign name here?
Yeah.
Deck building board game, it looks like.
Yeah, that looks interesting. Kind of reminds me of Seven Wonders, I believe is the board game. At least visually, with like the cards.
Actually, I don't think it's a deck builder, but it's an interesting idea. I mean, obviously the big one is Tabletop Simulator, but there's definitely room for more specialized rule sets, a lot more defined games like this. And this does have online multiplayer, and it's not that expensive. I mean, it's outside of my impulse buy for a one-off game like this, particularly if I'm not a fan of it, a pre-established fan, I should say. But definitely, worth a look.
Trying to figure out how to pronounce his last name. So Vlada is right, but I don't see a pronunciation for his last name. Oh wait, here it is. Vlada Jassi.
I would have never gotten that.
Vlada Jassi. He's Czech, so...
Wait. So I got another one immediately. I'm still on my first discovery queue, and all of them's been winners, to some degree. Emergency 20. This is a real-time strategy where you're controlling emergency services during emergencies. Riots, building fires, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh. I've
seen different versions of this pop up with varying degrees of support from the gaming public.
Yeah, I've seen this game before.
Yeah, I've seen. I think it was older versions. I think this is a remastered of one of their older versions. I mean, the idea is interesting. It's just all comes down to the execution.
Yeah.
But
I'm almost done with my second queue. I got some of the ones that you got already, so I skipped over those. My second queue's been much better though.
Yeah, I got a JRPG, but it's one I don't recognize offhand. I'll add it to my wish list, but I don't think it's worth talking about because I have no idea. Oh look, a Worms ripoff. No, let's not.
What is this? Huh. Them's fighting the herds.
I know what that is.
I don't normally go for 2D fighting games.
This is actually very interesting. This was originally supposed to be a licensed My Little Pony fighting game, but they couldn't get the license, so they redid all the characters.
Some of the characters are definitely reminiscent of My Little Pony from the screenshots, but they're not quite, I like the look of this. Them's fighting herds. It looks like it's got some kind of RPG.
I think it's from the developers of Skullgirls.
Add to wish list.
I just got
developer Mana 6. That's all they've got listed on Steam. Publisher's Humble Bundle.
I know that they have a thing going on with Skullgirls, so there's some sort of connection.
Yeah, I want this.
I just got a game that I know is dead. The Settlers Online. I'm not going to put it in the show notes, but that game is dead. Literally. I don't think you can actually play it anymore. Uh-oh.
I'm still watching Them's Fighting Herds, the trailer.
Jared, I just got your... if you're not into fighting games, I got the game for you then.
Okay.
Wildlife Park 2 Fantasy.
Okay.
I'm putting this in as a complete joke, but you can manage unicorns and dragons, and it looks like it has terrible reviews.
I'm in.
It says it.
It only costs 99 cents.
Actually, it says
I'm so tempted.
actually, according to this, some of the reviews are saying it's DLC for another game, but it's not listed anywhere. So it's probably a DLC for Wildlife Part 2. Yeah, it is. So
You can buy Wildlife Part 2 Ultimate Edition for $20, which has this DLC.
This has to be a release of a very old game. Because look at the dragons. That's some low poly models right there.
Wildlife Part 2, release date May 12th, 2006.
So there you go. But, you know, there's your unicorns in case you don't want to play them's fighting herds.
Oh, no, I'm definitely going to get them's fighting herds. Not right now. I have other more important games.
And that is pretty much me done.
Okay, so them's fighting herds is partnering with BlazBlue, Guilty Gear X2, and Skullgirls to get, if you own those games, you get bonus cosmetic items.
See, I knew there was a connection, but for some reason I was thinking it was the actual developers. I just, wow, I got a game that you recommend against.
What?
I got a game that
You got a girl.
I got a game that you have a negative review on.
What game is it?
RPG Tycoon. It sounds like a good
RPG
concept,
Tycoon
but in
was
reality, there's very little to do to influence what's going on. There isn't enough information on any of your hero stats to have a meaningful understanding of what's going on with them. And building aspect of this game is lackluster at best. Great if you could get it really cheap, but I say $1 or otherwise less.
I don't remember writing that review, but I must have at some point.
Well, either that or Kyle's hallucinating, and I'm seeing things that don't exist.
Actually, I think it was for like one of my Steam badges
Posted,
or whatever.
June 7th, 2015.
Yes, that would have been for one of my Steam badges. And I remember the developer responded to my review or sent me a message or something and was like,
That's
hey,
mean.
I fixed some of the things that you reviewed or that were in your review. You could check the game out again. And I never responded, and I never have checked the game out again.
But, yeah. I thought it was more interesting that you, it was one of the 4 things that you've reviewed.
Yep, I haven't reviewed very much.
So that's my single discovery, Hugh.
Yeah, and I went through 2, but I still came up with 3 games, and then I also got TT Isle of Man and Pixark in my second list. So
yeah, TT Isle of Man doesn't look bad, but you know it comes down to gameplay.
Yeah. So, with that out of the way, then time to move on to the part of the podcast where I go first. Although I went first for games we played this week. That's never happened before, I don't think. So that was nice. But if you want to find my stuff on the YouTubes, nah. If you want to find my stuff on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. I had a crazy last week and weekend. I didn't get to work much on content like I intended to because of taxes. Had some weird taxes this year, filing as what is it, a 1C or a C3?
Bingo.
Whatever it is, you're a sole proprietor of a small business. Because I opened my own clinic last year. And then there was also some weird stuff from when I was working for Omni as well for all of last year. It was insane. So I lost like my weekend. Sunday was going to be a nice relaxing day to play some video games and maybe do some writing or recording. And Katie was like, hey, did you get this thing done on their taxes? I was like, it wasn't on my list of things. She was like, oh, well, I need that. And I was like, well, there went my afternoon. So that was how my last week went. But that's out of the way, so hopefully I can get back to doing some stuff this week. But other than the podcast and Divinity, and I need to do another batch of Kerbalcast episodes. I haven't done one in a couple of weeks. So I'll do that, make sure some Kerbalcast goes up.
Well, to be fair, Biff
Otherwise,
hasn't done a batch of Kerbalcast in even longer.
That's true. It's been years for them. So, yeah. I'll be sure and do some of that stuff. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where you can see me tweet about all kinds of things. You can do so by following at JMA4707. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch or stream other content on Twitch, because I'm using the Twitch Premiere system and the rerun system.
Yeah, like we're on Twitch right now.
We are.
Now, but future now. Or past
yes,
now. Now I've gone cross-eyed.
But I'm running the premieres and the reruns and posting just more content live on Twitch. And I have... my average is almost enough to where I can be a Twitch affiliate and then start doing subscriptions and ads and all sorts of things that I'm not quite sure how I'm going to incorporate yet. But surprisingly, Twitch seems to do better than my YouTube channel ever did. So that's interesting.
You're making me want to push ahead plans, because I am planning on doing some Twitch stuff in the future.
It's a strange thing. Twitch has gotten really popular in the last few months. I mean, Twitch has always been popular, but it seems like is a wider audience.
Twitch is also
now
very
coming
different
to
content
Twitch.
because I think RimWorld would actually fit better on Twitch than it does my YouTube channel, but YouTube does is something I can pre-cook.
Yeah. Twitch seems to fit the style of content that we normally produce better based on the numbers that I'm seeing.
Long form random bullshit? Twitch is better for that? Who knew?
People seem to like long form random bullshit on Twitch a lot better. So
I hope you're linking to our stuff properly.
I am. I made sure to put links to the VGL podcast at podbean.com.
Ding.
Or VGLpodcast.podbean.com. Whatever. I checked it a little while ago. There were 2 viewers watching last week's podcast, and there are still 2 viewers watching last week's podcast, although I can't tell if it's the same 2 or...
At least with that attitude.
You know, people left and came back.
See, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get the tranquilizer gun. We're going to have to trank them and then put radio collars on them.
Gonna have to go hunt these people down. But yeah, the reruns and premieres and things of the Torchlight 2 stuff that I recorded and streamed while we were doing gameplay testing has gotten something like 20 something views a piece. Like, 2 or 3 or 4 at a time, but every time I run a rerun I'll get 2 or 3 or 4.
What section are you putting it under?
Well, the podcast goes under the IRL section because there's no real good place to put the podcast. I tried putting it under like a game, but I was worried that I would get reported
because
or something.
It's not gameplay footage.
Right. So I've got the podcast in IRL, but the actual games just go under whatever their game is. But my average viewers is still at 2, and you have to have an average viewers of 3. But I'm getting larger, like, bursts of viewers, and I'm not sure how it calculates the average. But like I had 7 viewers on my last stream, which last stream includes reruns and premieres. But whatever, I'm getting off in the weeds again. Twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I'm trying to work much harder on posting things there, and when now that taxes are settled, because we turned in all of our stuff today to our tax person. I'm gonna try and start streaming solo regularly on Saturday or Monday or Friday. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but Thursday nights is gonna remain community stream night, and then another night I want to try and start doing variety streams and actually be live. If you want to be friends with me on Steam, however, I accept all friend requests from our podcast listeners. My Steam username is jarthur4707, and I look forward to having a conversation with you.
And if you were to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is Gangplank. Gangplank.
I would have gladly walked it.
So my channel, I didn't do the Sunday sample last week because more recent titles were either shit, as the 3 I highlighted were, or just weren't really compatible, because I have some stuff that it doesn't make good video content. Like Wonderful World, for example, where it's tough to do. It's too wordy to be to run like I do a visual novel, but it's not visual enough to really be a video either. It's weird, and there's no spoken content whatsoever. So I had some of that, some just utter crap RPG Maker stuff, and so I originally was starting to set up for some of the filler content, but I realized I didn't have the proper assets for it, so I decided to spend the day, start making channel assets and planning that out. So that's what happened Sunday. I've really been sitting down and reconsidering my Civ game because I'm in a position where it's just not fun. It's that mid-game grind. And I think I'm going to drop it and start playing something else. Partly due to viewer count, partly just due to having another bad map, and that was my 4th in a row that was either a horrendous start, no resources nearby, or what. Maybe I just had bad luck on the map generation. Maybe the game just hates me. Or maybe I just have that Civ is a better streaming game anyway. So I'm going to replace that. I actually got review code for a little bit of an older game that I wasn't actually expecting getting code for. So I'm going to do that instead. I did a quick test run to make sure everything works properly. I just need to sit down and record it probably this week. RimWorld is still my number one, Let's Play priority, though, because that's one that actually gets a little bit of views, and I still really enjoy RimWorld. So, Netherwallop is still going strong. We've only had 2 deaths in the community so far, so yay.
You got that going for
nice.
you.
Hey, we got rid of that annoying nudist. Whining because he had to wear armor. Well, got rid of him, started to recruit more people, building up defenses, waiting for the game to utterly screw me over, but that's the life of RimWorld, or really any of these survival-based, base builders. So, RimWorld's still ongoing, Divinity's still ongoing. I have all the stuff that we've done rendered up and ready to go. We didn't record last week, though, so we're going to have to work extra hard this week.
Yeah, I was, again, that was the day that I was wiped. I didn't sleep good that night, and then I had taxes
so we
all
just
afternoon.
goofed off. I think it was for the best you were kind of out of it.
Yeah.
And you just needed an unwind day, so that was the focus there, and I think it was the right call. Besides, we still have a fair amount of backlogged Divinity, and really should sit down and start talking about our replacement, even though we still have a while to get through the Divinity. Have a few ideas. We had ideas from before. We have new things that's popped up since then. So we'll have to figure that one out in the not too distant future. We still have, 2-3 months of Divinity, though?
Probably.
Yeah, we're looking at probably summer till we get rid of Divinity. I'm thinking shorter game next time. What about you?
Definitely a shorter game next time.
But to be fair, I think about anything is shorter than Divinity. But Sunday Samplers should return this week. I've actually gotten a few interesting things, and I showed Jared one of the things that I can't do because of just hardware limitations, and he laughed his ass off.
Yeah.
What was it? The American Dream? It's a VR game I got a hold of. It's a hilarious parody, so go check that out if you have VR hardware. Jim?
Even if you don't, go watch a trailer for it somewhere. It's amazing. I laughed so hard.
Yeah, you laughed so hard that you started coughing and snorting. It was hilarious.
Not squeaking.
Yeah, no squeaky.
If I cut that story out and put it into Franken episode, people are going to be really confused by squeaky.
Or will they? Yeah, they would. But yeah, I have a couple ideas of what I could do. I'm also going to be working on the channel assets to be able to do more editorial, setting down and really discussing some of the stuff from the journal topics list. So when we eventually get to that in the journal topics list, I may be slightly more coherent in my thoughts. Yeah, slightly. But you can find that over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or just see me tweet about who knows what over at Gaming with CR. And while we're doing links to things, once again, VGLpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or just tweet them to us at VGL Podcast on the Twitter. Our Patreon is patreon.com/VGL Podcast, which has helped pay for our Podbean account, which is VGLpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts our RSS feed and the show notes for all the random nonsense that we've done. We're not putting show notes for our random nonsense, are we? No. Or you can just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or, once again, our YouTube channels. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com, as well as Doobly Doo for our Discovery queue.
And as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye now.
Wow, we are just shy of 4 hours, and we went way off topic. Bye-bye.